Hello everyone, welcome to the Race for and Everything. We're on episode 269 and we're coming to you a little later than usual because we did have to squeeze in the Race to Decides episode for the South Australian election. So
don't cry, you've got content.
Yeah, that's right. We've certainly got a lot for you today, but yeah, if you wanted to hear that episode, just go to the racer.biz and click on Race to Decides. So that said, yeah, we won't have anything on the South Australian politics today, considering that. So I'm Fenian and Nolsey is here, of course, and we have very, very expensive fuel.
Yes.
You said you paid $4.10 a litre for diesel?
Yeah, literally a couple days back. Well, actually over the weekend, yeah, $4.10. The same station is now. I actually imagine tomorrow morning I'll be pressing 5.
Oh God. Yeah, I didn't fill up on my usual Tuesday just because the cheap days just don't exist when stuff like this is happening. However, I should have still filled up because every day it just seems to be going up that little bit. So it's and I've nearly got an empty tank now, so I'm absolutely dreading to see what it cost me to fill up a full tank, because half a tank cost me $89 last time, and this is just going to cost me so much more. Anyway, so let's talk about the Iran war and everything, and we are, of course, interested in the Australian relation to all of this. And, well, Donald Trump actually, for the first time, singled out Anthony Albanese for criticism. It's amazing that hadn't happened so far. But Donald Trump is very angry that certain allies, not just those in NATO, but around the world, have not been coming to his aid in securing the Strait of Hormuz. Even though he's the one who started the war with Israel, for some reason he says, all these other countries reliant on the Strait, you should be contributing to this because we're trying to protect your oil. Well, you know what? The oil was protected just fine before, okay? You're the one who came in with the Jews and fucked it all up. So don't point the finger at the rest of us. So yeah, we were actually singled out here. Andrew Hastie referred to Trump's words as petulant. He probably could have gotten. He probably should have been a lot harsher than that. But yeah, I mean, since then, Trump has put in like a phony deadline where he said, like, we're going to hit your power grids in 48 hours if you don't agree to all our terms. Israel hit the power grid anyway during that space of time. Then Trump delayed the ultimatum because he said that they were in very productive talks with Iran. And Iran has since said, actually, we're not even trying to negotiate with the US at this point. So
I think
Trump is just blatantly lying.
Yeah, Trump's explanation was like, if they admitted they were talking to the US, they'll get killed by their own people. And I'm just like, I don't necessarily think so. But again, dude, fucking Trump is pulling like, my girlfriend lives out of town, and except it's like, my peace talks live out of town. You wouldn't know them.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And I was someone showed me a video the other day of all of like the radar systems that Iran has taken out in the Middle East. You see, one of the reasons why they're hitting some of the Gulf states, I mean, for one thing, because there's American bases there. But did you know that there's also radars there that help detect missiles incoming? It's part of the Iron Dome system. And Iran has actually taken out a number of those radars, meaning that when the rockets or the missiles hit Israel now, they only get like a couple of minutes warning. Whereas before, when the Gulf states were able to detect them, earlier with their radar, they got a much earlier warning and, were able to evacuate areas and that kind of thing. Iran has actually taken out many of those. And we're at a point now where Iran is not going to give in at all. And, well, what do you think, Nolsey? Are we looking at ground troops now, considering that America is not winning this?
I don't know what other reason you'd raise the age of conscription all the way up to 40.
Yeah, I think they're seriously thinking about it. And, if America is just militarily embarrassed at the end of all of this, I would not be surprised if Israel actually fired a nuke at Tehran or another Iranian city. I honestly would not be surprised by that.
Look, I've heard it from even pro-Iran sources. I don't think a nuke would change the situation to Iran all that much.
No, perhaps not.
It's kind of a shithole. They've been trying to move the capital for. I mean, like before the fucking Shah, they're trying to move the capital because it's yeah.
Okay.
That city is so fucking old. It basically predates a lot of known written language.
Well, okay, maybe Syrian girl's video of her holiday there was a little misleading.
Oh yeah,
she seemed to love it.
she's swinging in the right direction, but yeah, I mean, like, you have to expect a little bit of propaganda, don't you?
Of course. Okay, so look, for the first time also, a piece of Australian military hardware was hit. The damage has been very, very minor, though. So this was outside the Al Minhad Air Base that is used by Australian soldiers in the Middle East. There was a small fire caused by the Iranian projectile, so the rocket, and minor damage was caused.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, look, while we are actually technically at war, and we are a part of this war, obviously it's minimal. But, if Pauline Hanson had her way, we would be offering up as much of our military as we possibly could. She was on Sky News the other day saying that. I don't know if you saw that clip.
Yes. Yeah, that was...
And she started saying, oh, look, what if Australia is invaded? The only ally that's going to come to our aid is America. So essentially her logic was like, because of this hypothetical future invasion that she might think is coming from China or something, we must essentially be the butt goys of America all the way until then. We must just... we have to just give in and grovel and be their fucking lapdog. And it's the same shit we've heard for decades now. I mean, you know that we have actually, since like the 60s, we've contributed militarily to every single American war. Every single one, including this one.
Yeah, and I think David Bowie got it wrong, Finian. I think he got it really, really wrong. You shouldn't be afraid of Americans. You should be afraid of getting raped by Americans at this point, man.
I like that song.
It's a good one.
I like how,
they did it in conjunction.
I like
with
how Trent Reznor is in it.
Yes, it was like they did it in conjunction with 9 Inch Nails. It was fucking cool.
Yeah, and I do quite well. I like old 9 Inch Nails. Recent stuff has been pretty crap. Anyway, so what else? So look, we are hearing from energy experts. Yes, they are such thing. So, for example, there is the International Energy Agency. They've been telling us that we can only expect fuel supplies to be further squeezed, to be rarer. I guess a lot of ships now, I mean, what are they doing? Just like sailing past Africa? Is that essentially what they're forced to do?
They
I know
fucking
that Chris
might.
Bowen. Yeah, Chris Bowen has said that there have been a small number of shipments of oil to Australia that have not occurred. Uh, he said that Australia roughly receives 81 shipments of oil every month, and he said that uh, in the past month, only like 5 of them, I think he said, have not gotten here. The main thing he was putting it down to, in terms of fuel prices going up, is not shortages, but the fear of shortages. And he has somewhat of a point here. And that is that, when people hear about a potential shortage, well, what do? They hoard. Exactly what happened with toilet paper and other goods during COVID. So the figure he gave, I don't know how accurate this is, but he said that demand for petrol and diesel has essentially doubled. It's gone up 100% since the Iran war broke out. And that has caused panic buying and hoarding. So,
well, I don't. Trending on Twitter today. I got back home from work and I was just scrolling through just so I could, have my finger on the pulse for stuff like this. There are people naming and shaming people for showing up to service stations with gas cans, and filling them all up, and then having a tray full of gas cans and whatnot. People were posting their number plates, their names, home addresses and shit. That was some genuine fucking seething hatred. And we've also got this left-leaning, I would say it's a cope. They're saying well, actually, it's not that we actually have a fuel shortage. It's just greedy people hoarding all this fuel. And it's no, we have a fuel shortage because we don't have any input right now. And literally the long haul of freight trucks, agricultural instruments, and etc. piss the stuff. They burn through it like it's nothing.
Yeah, and even if we don't have shortages right now, well, trust us, they're coming. Obviously, this stuff takes a while to kind of push its way through the system, and there are going to be shortages. And when this war is finished, and it probably won't be finished for a while, it didn't turn out to be that 3-day blitz that Donald Trump promised. We're going to feel it for a while after that as well. So high fuel prices are here for, I'd say, at least a couple of months. And it could well mean shortages as well. Because I can't imagine when the war is over that Iran is just going to let the Strait of Hormuz back to full capacity. I don't think it's going to work like that.
One of their conditions is they want sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. Yeah. So they just released a 5-point demand plan, didn't they? The Americans had a 15-point one, and the Iranians just said, no, don't like that, but here's 5 points that we demand. And that was one of them. Another was guarantees of no more military strikes on the country. And I think another was also official recognition of the Islamic regime in Iran. So, yeah, I mean, they've got the upper hand here. I mean, of course, they'll end up with a lot of destroyed infrastructure and even a high death count. But simply in terms of military strategy, they'll come out on top here. Because the regime's going nowhere. They have inflicted enormous damage on Israel. They've taken out what is essentially part of the Iron Dome system. And also, do you know just how expensive war is? I saw one estimate saying that the first 3 days of the war cost the American military over $3 billion. And, something interesting also, when it comes to rockets, now rockets are expensive. Missiles are expensive. But what is much, much more expensive? Interceptors. Every time they intercept an Iranian rocket and blow it out of the sky, they have lost about 5 times more money than Iran has. So that's actually part of the reason why they're firing them. It's just really, really fucking expensive to intercept them. So, there is a method to Iran's madness here. This isn't all just like the irrational behavior of a suicidal state. They've been preparing for all of this since 1979, and they're actually doing a pretty good job.
Oh, man.
Okay, so in reply to all of this, how is Australia doing? Well, in terms of diesel standards, they're going to be lowered for 6 months. Now, I heard that when it comes to petrol, there's sulfur in it, and I'm sorry, I'm deferring to science men again here because I expect you to know all this stuff, Nolsey. But I assume here they're talking about certain ingredients in the diesel or the petrol that don't have to fly.
Yeah, there's basically it's viscosity, real oil content. You were actually right about that sulfur. Sulfur is a not so nice product because it's sulfur is one of those non-metalloids that can dissolve really, really well in oils. Or not dissolve, but be suspended. Hence because it can facilitate anyway. Long story short, vulcanization is a thing for a reason. But we're just basically lowering standards across the board. So you're gonna get dirtier diesel. People's DPF filters, they're gonna get clogged way faster. So
so what? This means more pollution?
Yeah, this shit's gonna run nasty, man.
Okay. Okay, so look, the government is also responding with a national task force that is led by the former chief of energy regulator. The government is proposing appointing a coordinator to oversee supply chains at a national cabinet meeting as well. And so the Prime Minister's office has requested Treasury modelling on options to impose a new levy on gas companies. This has been a big topic in the past couple of weeks, talking about exporting tons of Australian gas and having a minimal amount of taxation on it. Andrew Wilkie was out there saying, it's not their gas, it's not the government's gas, it's our gas, it's the people's gas. So I've also seen billboards on this about the greedy gas companies and the LNG and that, saying that they're really cashing in on this fuel crisis at the moment because demand for gas has gone right up. So the government, in an attempt to, I guess, capitalize on this, wants to have a new tax on gas. They're also looking at changes to the petroleum resources rent tax. That's essentially the petrol tax, the excise tax on petrol. Now, it's God, I think I had the figure here, but it's 50 cents a litre. Yeah, 50 cents a litre or more is tax.
Essentially, the government has doubled its fucking revenue because prices have gone up twofold, and the tax isn't a fixed number; it's a percentage, and it's over 50%.
Yeah, and what's ridiculous about that is many groceries are exempt from GST. Why? Well, because groceries are considered to be an essential product, a necessity. Well, isn't petrol basically a necessity as well? Everyone fucking needs it. Yet we have GST and this heavy excise tax on it. doesn't make much sense to me. If you ask me, it should have GST, and that's it. That's all it should have. It's a necessity that everyone uses. So, look, we've also had Blue Cap Mining in WA. They are standing down 2/3 of their workforce, which is they're all FIFO. They're a WA gold miner, and they have put this directly down to the enormous cost of fuel at the moment. And yeah, I mean, guess what? Industry runs on fuel. So not surprising that something like this has happened. Oh yeah, thanks to Kyber for this one. There's a pub that when they have like their raffle, usually their prize is like, I don't know, a bunch of wine bottles or something. They've now made it a fuel raffle. So,
oh god,
the prize you get is like a big jerrycan of petrol. That is the prize you can.
Oh man, you know it's bad. You know it's bad when the meat plate goes away.
Yeah, 20-liter jerrycan.
Yeah, the 20. Oh,
so every Friday night you can get in on the raffle, buy a ticket, and win 20 liters of fuel.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay. So what else? Well, the National Farmers Federation is telling us that there's going to be an effect also on food prices. They're predicting that those will rise within weeks. Yeah, definitely. Groceries generally have gone up in price. I'm finding like particularly on fresh produce, and the things just like buying fruit and veg, they go up way more than like processed food.
Oh yeah, like, well, shelf life is the thing.
Junk food has gotten a little more expensive, but nowhere near at the rate of like groceries. So, it's not a very good incentive when it comes to healthy eating, when it's just, cheaper just to buy the processed crap.
Yeah, no, I was speaking to, the boss man today, and, because he was getting pissy about freight charges because literally Tuesday morning, he basically logs onto his computer and there's a whole bunch of fucking emails, and it's all the freight companies he uses basically saying, hey, look, guess our rate was? Well, here's our new rates. It's 4 times the fucking charge. And he even called up. He was like, "Hey, man, like, why 4 times? Like, technically, fuel has only gone up twice. Like, it's not like you're suddenly paying your guys more per hour." And he's like, and he basically said, like, "Look, I physically I'll be taking some of my drivers off the road just because they can't get fuel. So, like, I'm raising the price so my clientele like fucking gets the chills about actually ordering shit from me because shit is not gonna be going anywhere at the rate it was a month ago."
Right. I mean, yeah, people should be aware that this obviously is not going to just impact fuel. There's spillover effects. And look, basically every industry you can think of is linked to the resources sector because they need fuel to be able to run. So, yeah, this is going to be across the board. Jim Chalmers actually said that we're looking at the inflation rate going to 5% very soon. At the moment, I think it's about 4% or a little lower than that. So, yeah, that's not quite as high as what we have seen it. However, to have a high inflation rate after having a really, really bad run with inflation and all these prices going through the roof, the last bloody thing we need is another one. So, yeah, and I think that, if there's any silver lining to any of this, people are blaming Israel. People are blaming the Jews for all of this. Yep. I mean, and rightly so. But yeah, we'll get to that a bit later.
I haven't seen the stickers in person, but I've seen a lot of stickers at Bowser Pumps with A caricature so anti-Semitic that it would possibly get you thrown in jail in this country.
Yeah, it might. Okay, so finally, Iranian media says that their women's football team has arrived safely back in Iran. They're not saying where they are, of course.
Yep.
So this was 5 out of 7 players. So they were actually all granted asylum, but 5 of them chose to actually go back. And Iran congratulated them for resisting the temptations of Australia. And I thought that was actually a pretty good way of putting it.
I wish there was more non-Europeans like them.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a really good way of putting it. It's like, okay, yeah, stay in Australia. You'll get a degree of like wealth and comfort that you won't enjoy back in Iran. But is it really worth it? Is that actually going to make your life better?
Look, how much of this is propaganda? Like you really have to ask yourself. I believe that their bus did get rammed because, I saw a video of it, and I know it's not AI because the car wasn't sliding around and driving backwards occasionally. But they said that, like, literally AFP officers stopped as they were departing. AFP officers stopped the van and basically were like demanding for, I think it was like an hour and a bit, that like more of them apply for asylum because they wanted the geopolitics PR win, I guess. Which I can totally fucking believe, because the Australian Federal Police are political police. They are designed to enforce the design, chosen, and trained to enforce the political whims of Australian geopolitique.
Yeah, well, it was federal police who arrested Joel Davis last year.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, has now been in jail for over 4 months. According to Blair Cottrell, though, he's got a Supreme Court bail hearing in early April. So I guess a week and a bit. He's got a much better chance there because history has proven that going to superior courts rather than just a magistrate's court, they tend to be fairer. So you may well finally get bail. And we might actually know soon when the trial might be, because the prosecution have delayed it twice now, which is the other thing that's contributing to him being locked up for so long. Anyway, you just reminded me of that when you mentioned the AFP.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the economy, which obviously very much linked to all of this. So I mentioned, that inflation may well go back to 5% or even more. Jim Chalmers has all but guaranteed us that the RBA will increase interest rates the next time it meets. They were probably going to do that anyway. That's going to hurt. He's also said that the budget that's coming up in May, not too long away, he basically said it's going to be a difficult budget. Now, there may be...
That means you're getting raped.
Well, look, I mean, one of the things is, changes to capital gains tax. Obviously, there's been a lot of focus on the discount on capital gains tax that investors get when they sell their properties. That a lot of people are saying that, basically they given too much of an easy ride through all of that. But more importantly, the government is looking for ways to get revenue. So, as I mentioned, they're looking for this new gas tax. The government's desperate to raise funds here.
Yeah, God.
Okay, so... Oh, yeah. Talking about gas exports. So, according to Treasury, their modelling is showing that new taxes on gas exports would deliver around $16 billion to the budget over the next 25 years. So break that down, that's not a lot. So the gas lobby, of course, has warned the government against these changes, increasing taxes, of course. But as the Australian points out in this article, Joel Fitzgibbon, former Labor frontbencher, has warned against that as well. They like rolling him out every now and then because when it comes to issues like climate and resources, he's pretty much on the same page as Sky News. So, yeah, it looks like the Murdoch media is definitely opposed to any of these changes. No, look, I think I support Labor in this. And I also think that the regulations surrounding gas reserves should be tightened as well. There should be more put away. I mean, look at what we're actually looking at just with petrol and diesel at the moment. Do we actually have enough for emergencies? We've released a certain amount of it. I can't remember. It was like 100 million liters of petrol or something. But you can actually chew through that amount in like a month.
Oh, dude, fucking easy. Dude, our logistics fucking sector alone would chew through that in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, these figures might sound impressive, but a lot of people just fail to comprehend just how much fuel we actually consume on a regular basis. We don't have the reserves here. Now, that's not the fault of the current government. That's a fault of like every government. The Bill Shorten, funnily enough, actually had a plan for that. But of course, he didn't win back in 2019. And then Scott Morrison's government just decided that they weren't going to touch that. And here we are now with this fuel crisis. So a lot are probably looking back and thinking, maybe we should have done that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't rhetoric your way out of a fucking material problem.
Yeah.
Which I think they're trying to do at this point.
Okay, so, yes. We have finally signed the free trade agreement with the European Union.
Yes.
Now, this is actually years in the making. There's been many previous administrations that have been engaged in these negotiations. Now, believe it or not, the EU actually dropped their conditions about naming products. So, for example, feta cheese. They're kind of saying that feta is I can't remember, one of their countries, they have
Greece.
like a monopoly on that name. Sorry?
Greece.
It's Greece, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's Greek.
Yeah, it's like how, Scotch is Scottish.
Yep.
And I believe there are regulations around that, like what you can call Scotch.
Yeah, mozzarella, champagne, etc. Europe is known for its brand protectionism. So that's why, unless it's literally made in the Champagne region of France, it's called Méthode de Champagne.
Yeah, but we don't follow that code here in Australia. You can get the Coles brand feta.
Yeah, no. Oh, look at it. Look at the packaging, because I literally just bought some feta because I wanted to make myself a Greek style salad, but I never include olives because I hate fucking olives. Look at the packaging. Look at it closely. It's style. They use style. Yeah.
Right.
We have complied. That was one of the deals, because up until I'd hasten to say mid 2023, we didn't comply. That was one of the reason why we got a free trade deal with Europe is because we did actually go and comply with those regulations.
Yeah, but apparently the EU has dropped those conditions now. Um, because, this was actually a major reason why we were delaying signing an agreement with them, because we couldn't seem to agree to these
Yeah,
conditions.
the reason why is because we've agreed to not fuck with the pricing or relative pricing.
Right.
So yeah, basically, like we've more or less price fixed these specialist foodstuffs to the internal, like basically what it would cost the internal European market to get their hands on it. So
Right.
basically, our cost is that minus import costs.
Okay. Well, look, this does give us access to 450 million consumers. Well, that's how many you've got inside the EU. But look, not everyone is happy about this.
No.
The farming bodies are not happy about it. They say that this agreement will heavily disadvantage red meat exporters. Because, of course, remember, it's not just that us having access to their market, they have access to ours as well. So, they're going to be importing many of theirs. Sorry, we're going to be importing many of their products as well. And whenever this happens, farmers pretty much always say that they're at a disadvantage. Because, well, the EU has many, many more people, many more consumers, many more producers. They're obviously going to have a ton of stock that they can unload here. And previous free trade agreements have really hurt farmers, like particularly in dairy and sugar.
Oh boy!
If you look at the people that Bob Catter represents in his seat of Kennedy, he'll tell you about like all the suicides that have gone on because of these farming communities centered around sugar and dairy that have just gone bust, and it ruins people's lives. So
It's so
that is
it's.
actually
I'll say from someone who's like comes from like my father's side of the family is distillery, because dairies haven't been a fucking thing since World War II. That's what they're called, by the way, these days. They're called distilleries, not dairies. It's a lot of that side of my family blames the downturn and their profitability on the fact that we consume less like cheese and milk these days.
Oh, okay.
Cheese used to be a staple. Like back when the refrigerators were like a couple months' wages. Yeah, like fucking room temperature stable shit was king. And back when like the milkman was just like a relatively cheap subscription you could get where you return the glass bottles. Yeah, people just went through it because like if you didn't have a bottle of milk fucking dropped at your front door, then you're a fucking bum.
Yeah,
so,
well,
like that's they're old guys. They're like beyond. They're silent generation these days. Or the last vestiges of my family doing that stuff, a silent generation, and now Zoomers. But yeah, no, that's what they blame it on.
well, it's not all that long ago that we had milk for $1 a liter, and I remember, like in the dying days of that, we were told that farmers were hurting because of like urbanites demanding to have their milk at $1 a liter. So then what happened was, like the Coles brand milk and that all went up in price by like, I don't know, 30 cents or something. Because in large part, it was consumers saying, oh, we're willing to pay it. We support our farmers, therefore we don't mind paying that little bit extra. But when that happened, it didn't benefit the farmers, like at all.
No.
This was just retailers putting it up and cashing in on the fact that people were willing to pay more. And I mean, what is milk a liter now? I mean, like,
oh fuck it.
you buy like the Browns 3 liter. That's like fucking $5.80 now or something.
I used to drive, but actually I still do drive past the Browns fucking processing plant a lot. But no, that was the thing, because you know, like, people can say a lot about Mr. fucking Caterpillar Eyebrows himself, Tony Gallardi, but you know, the Brunswick fucking brand dairy, he actually did, you know, because he fucking grew up in Brunswick, he did actually fucking pay a good price, and he sold it at a good price, and he made sure the profits actually went back, you know, with his cut, obviously, you know, to the farmer. But yeah, when you sell to like West Farmers and what's the other fucking conglomerate? They literally have these long-standing contracts with every fucker around you, assuming you weren't bought out, you know, 2 decades ago by an agri-farmer corporation, and therefore just have this like stock standard contract that you may even be owned. It may even be a child company of the same conglomerate. Yeah, like it's a fixed price, and you get fucked. It doesn't matter how much it fucking sells for at Coles or Woolworths. You're getting fucked because you had no option outside of signing this contract.
Yep.
I'll give Farmers Market, Farmer Jack's and fucking Spud Shed, they were at least fair.
Yeah. Coles and Woolworths and IGA. And there's nothing independent about IGA either, by the way.
Oh, fuck no. Know. Oh, it's a franchisee, but they're basically fucking Pinocchioed by the amount of strings that they have to sign going into it.
Yeah, and it's all just an excuse so that they have extended hours. You know, they're allowed to open like an hour later than Coles and that. Okay. So, on to the related topic of housing. We're going to start in Queensland. So, the LNP government has dumped an affordable homes mandate. So, this was a policy from the previous Labor government. So what this was a scheme where they mandated that at least 15% of homes within new developments had to be affordable. I don't think there was a fixed price on this, but, you know, it was basically there so that, and this is rent, of course, by the way, we're not talking about actually owning the apartment.
In your dreams, buddy.
Yeah. Because now, you know, and if you look at the kind of policies that like the Greens are talking about, when they're talking about affordable housing, what they're talking about is big apartment blocks with relatively cheap rent. And when I say relatively, I just mean, you know, in comparison to the massively high prices that we have right now. So it's still not even really that affordable. And that's almost like just kind of giving up on the idea that people can own a house. You know, they're kind of saying, oh, well, look, let's bite the bullet. Investors are going to rule the market. So the next thing we can demand, next best thing we can demand is just cheaper rent, like slightly cheaper rent. But you'll still own nothing.
Oh, yeah. You'll rent forever. Don't worry. Don't worry. Somewhere deep in, you know, Sydney, Harry Triggerboff is sitting behind a desk smoking a cigar and laughing at all you petty little goyim.
Right. So look, the LNP have scrapped that mandate, but you know what? I don't think that'll really make any difference. Honestly, like,
yeah, nope.
15% of like these crappy apartments, you know, just being that little bit more affordable. You know, that's basically nothing. Okay, now we all remember Donald Trump's 50-year mortgage plan. Well, there's been a report that was just released in Australia. Can't see where it was from, some think tank. But anyway, it said that Australians would benefit from having a 20 to 30 year long fixed term home loan. So yeah, 30-year mortgage. I guess that's not entirely rare, and certainly going forward, it's not going to be a rare thing. Probably only a matter of time till we have to take on the 50-year mortgage as well, just like those poor Americans. But yeah, that's also comparing it to variable rate home loans, obviously, if you're in an environment where they just keep going up, which is the environment we're in right now, you would certainly benefit from a fixed rate home loan. In the course of those 20 to 30 years, I don't know. I'd really have to do the numbers on this. I'm not an expert, but yeah. A mortgage used to be like 10 years. It's hard to believe now, but it was like it used to be.
I can't even have fucking conversations with my father. I'm like, I'll say this: my father was born just after World War II, just after, and he explains is like, oh yeah, I moved out of the house at fucking 16 years old and was working some beta job while going to university, and I got married at fucking 19 and like bought my first house at 21, and I'm not even joking. His first house was only a few $1,000s. So he was like, yeah, but that was a lot of money back then. You don't know about it. And this is why every time I talk to him, I bring with me one of those inflation calculators. It's like, okay, so how much were you earning a year? Oh, I was earning this. Like doing a beta job, like a part-time beta job. And it's like, okay, so how quickly did you pay off that house? Oh, 3 years.
Right. I know, wasn't it all that common? And, I've mentioned this one before, but perhaps my favorite factoid about housing in Australia is, did you know that the government used to just give you a house for serving in the military?
Yes.
They would literally just give you one, completely paid off. All you had to do was pay the taxes on it. Believe it or not, we used to do that. Our Vietnam vets.
That is how my late uncle, who was a fucking what's the word for it? Like menace, but it starts with D. Not deviant. That's like sounds very sexual. No. He was an absolute fucking menace. Delinquent. Yes, he was a delinquent. An absolute fucking delinquent. Like go nowhere. Like fucking shit. Just because he served in Vietnam, they gave him a fucking like acre, like a fucking 4-bed 2-bath acre house. Like literally smack bang right outside of the city.
Yeah, how I found that out, that little factoid was, I was actually reading about Jack Van Tongeren. You know him?
Oh god, yeah. No, I had a conversation with an older gentleman recently about him.
Yeah, if listeners haven't heard of that guy before, I certainly don't endorse what he did, but yeah. He ran amok here in the 80s in WA and did some serious shit. But anyway, he was a Vietnam vet. And when I was reading about him, I read that he had a house in Gosnells that was given to him by the government because he served in Vietnam. And I was like, oh, wow, we used to give veterans houses?
I'm not even joking. Outcomes would have been... I'm going to watch my tongue here when I use adjectives. But outcomes would have been a lot different if he hadn't got winged in the arm in Vietnam, because apparently that stopped him from throwing an igniter during one instance.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I certainly don't endorse his tactics.
Yeah, for the listeners, look up that ethnically Dutch man in your own time. There's some fucking wild shit that happened.
Yeah, and by the way, he's not just ethnically Dutch. He's ethnically non-white as well.
Yeah.
He's got Indonesian blood in him.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he looks it as well. You can see it in him. Okay. Okay, so for the first time in 15 years, more than 90% of house resales in all Australian capital cities have returned a profit. So, see, this market is good if you're an investor. So, Sydney has the highest median profit per house. So, that'll actually bank you $750,000 per sale. Now, the other capital cities aren't as impressive of that, but they're getting a greater percentage all the time. So, Domain,
oh god, yeah.
they did a report on this, and they said that this is showing that there is a growing gap between first home buyers and investors. Well, no shit. They're also referring to this as intergenerational wealth, sorry, because, well, it's boomers who own all these bloody properties. And, now we're at a point where a lot of these boomers, instead of, just holding on to them so that they can pass them to their kids when they die, they're selling them to developers instead.
Yeah, I was going to say they reverse mortgage them so they can spend shit tons of money on their 19-year-old Filipino whore.
Yeah. So, by the time they die, their properties are in the hands of some developer who just knocks them down, subdivides them, builds a massive apartment block on top of it, and then charges you the highly unfair rent. And you'll pay so much for rent that you'll never, ever be able to save up to buy a house and compete with them. Okay, now...
You should be a slave. You should be a slave to the ord and a slave to your masters.
So, look, every week we've got at least one story.
You should be a slave to the list of the worst landlords of New York. I'm not going to elaborate any further.
Yeah, okay. So... there's always some new method that one of our governments in Australia is trying, to battle the housing crisis. So this time we're talking about the Tasmanian government, and this is about the allowable size of granny flats. So, that kind of a mini house that you have attached to your house or detached in the backyard. So... granny flats, according to the council rules and everything, have to be a certain size. Now the Tasmanian government is saying, well, okay, let's make them a bit bigger so that moving into one is more of a dignified choice, I guess you could maybe say.
Oh boy, it's Tasmania. So what is it? Is that the great granny flat?
Yeah, well,
the grandma's already living in the fucking house.
Because it used to be that, that's where you would put your aging mother, so that, she could have her own space, but also you'd be right next to her if she needed any help. It's not what they're used for nowadays. They're used just to be rented out, essentially.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Imagine living behind your landlord. Imagine living within earshot of your landlord. Oh.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, so now they're saying, okay, well, we should be allowed to just make them that little bit bigger to attract more people to rent them out.
It's fucking Tasmania. It's a retirement home. You'd think the fucking people retiring there would have enough money to buy a fucking little fucking shit shack and a decent shit shack and lost. I can never pronounce the name of this place. Launceston. Launceston, yes, there we go.
Yeah. Rent prices, even in Tasmania, are pretty high. You'd be surprised.
Jesus.
Okay.
No wonder why the youth don't stay there.
Okay, so Victoria has relaxed regulations on towers being up to 20 stories high in select parts of Melbourne. So in this case, it's Brunswick and Coburg. A lot of the time in these places, they can only be X stories high. And that's for quite a few reasons. One is the more people you let in, the more congestion there is. There's the more urban density. It's also because it blocks people's views. There's a range of things. So, yeah, rather than building out, this is another example of just building up. So also in Victoria, you'll be unable to challenge apartment developments of up to 6 stories. So this is under a new fast track plan that is being. It's not operating yet, but it's been proposed by the Allan government. So there's used to be that if you lived in this area and you had like a 6-story building built in front of your house, you could actually object to that and say, no, this blocks my view, or it causes too much traffic or congestion or whatever in my area. You could object to it on the basis of that. Now, if they get their way here, you can't.
I was going to say,
able to just completely surround you.
What's your over under until how long we end? How long it is until we end up with like peach trees from the Carl Urban Judge Dredd movie? The mega blocks, the mega towers.
Oh yeah, we're not far away from that. No. Oh, here's something interesting. Did you know that the Commonwealth Games in Victoria would have started by now? So remember that we were supposed to have the 2026 Games there, but it was supposed to be like on the outskirts of Melbourne. So
regional,
it was designed to, well, the government had to scrap that because they were already enormously in debt, and they found that, of course, there were cost blowouts when it came to building the facilities. Now, at the same time, though, the government had already started constructing many of those projects, and they did say, well, look, in terms of the new housing and that we were going to build, we'll continue that. We're not going to have the Commonwealth Games, but we will actually finish some of these projects.
Daniel Andrews voters got the Fell for It Again award. Regional Daniel Andrews voters got the Fell for It Again award.
Yeah, so as you can guess, what I'm going to say is, like those projects have completely stalled. They're not getting them. Now, this would have actually been something that, I would support because, like we said, it's on the outskirts of Melbourne, or it's even in regional parts that are considered to be regional. And that, I think, in terms of actually freeing up land, is a much better option, because that's building out rather than building up. You're not increasing density or congestion. So,
well, it depends. Urban sprawl can be a problem, but no, it's not as bad as having literally the fucking Judge Dredd tier fucking mega towers.
Yeah, I mean, I do sometimes hear people say that like Perth is too big because we do have quite wide urban sprawl here.
We also have because people. Our actual density is quite low compared to other cities.
It is. Yeah, but that's changing though, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
because we're starting to embrace urban density just like the other capital cities. Even in like smaller suburbs, they're starting to build a lot of apartment blocks now, and I don't like that at all.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So finally,
I remember I worked in an apartment block, and this was actually a relatively wealthy area. It got to the point where literally like the locals who were like high end lawyers were coming around and like harassing some of the workers and shit. I saw a high density dwelling upwards of what little gross of 30 meters tall, probably 18 to 20 residents total, 18 to 20 beds at least. I saw that go up in a very, very quiet suburb.
Yep. No, it's happening everywhere. Okay, so finally on housing, the head of the New South Wales Productivity Commission said that abolishing commissions for strata managers will increase fairness and transparency for apartment owners. Okay. Again, one of these small little details. Yeah, I mean, I've never had to deal with it myself, but I hear people complain about strata just all the time. So, I'll take your word for it.
I know this poor guy. Yeah, one of my normie friends. And he got like those were the first home buyers grant, and he went and bought this strata property. And to start off, it was empty, and then he's basically living in Gazapur at this point. New Delhi's trash dump. If you catch my drift. And the kids there break everything, destroy the plants, and the strata management company, God, it was like strata lease or some shit it's called, keeps charging him for the damages. On top of his already ridiculous fucking fee for apparently like a small apartment that he owns.
Right.
But yeah, no, like there'll be like a $9 fucking literally he caught this strata manager buying a $9 potted plant from Bunnings and then confronted him because they charged him something like $80 to replace it.
Right. Yeah, so look, strata managers, I've never actually had to deal with one of you people myself, but I'm going to say you are a bunch of wankers just from what I hear all the time. Not just Knowles, but I hear people bitch about them all the time.
That's why I bought green tile.
All right, so on to industrial relations. So the inquiry into the CFMEU in Queensland is still going. So this time we've got the Cross River Rail Delivery Authority Chief Graham Newton, who is giving evidence. He told the inquiry that the CFMEU had consistently made unsubstantiated claims on social media and through media organisations about poor worksite safety. Now, bosses, I guess, do cite this a lot. They say that CFMEU members, or officials, I should say, abuse their right of entry. They walk on to a site. Yeah. And if they have some kind of a dispute with this particular builder, they'll start making things up in terms of health and safety violations. That's, one of the ways that they flex their muscles. If they think, you're not paying your workers enough or whatever the disagreement might be, they'll come on and say, all right, we're going to shut this place down because you don't meet the standards. Now, so
I mean, that's one of their bargaining tools. I believe it.
Yeah. So the other story I've got here from the Australian says that they had been misusing their safety powers to take protected strike action and shut down work on Queensland's biggest state-funded infrastructure projects. Remember, these were projects commissioned by the former Labor government, and basically all of them are like CFMEU EBA work sites where, that's basically like the best contract that the CFMEU can get is when they've got one of their negotiated EBAs. Listeners might remember Knowlesy and I talking about one of those EBAs having $100 a week mobile phone allowances.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a shit ton of allowances, like travel allowances, meal allowances. It goes on and on. So yeah, look, like, while I don't agree that, there's like links to organized crime, bikies, there's definitely bikies in the CFMEU and on those construction sites. There's no doubt about that. But that's different from there actually being collusion between the CFMEU and bikie gangs.
Yes.
In their capacity as criminal networks. But yeah, do the CFMEU exploit their leverage? Crime. Yeah, look, they do. certainly bullying tactics, standover tactics, have been the norm for the CFMEU for decades. I mean, their predecessor was the Builders Labourers Federation, the BLF, and they were actually deregistered, meaning effectively they were banned by the Hawke government. That's why the CFMEU has like a long-standing grudge with Bob Hawke. You know, he was not seen to be a Labour prime minister by their standards.
Oh, fuck no.
Now, so in terms of one of these Brisbane inner city projects, that's a government project, remember, taxpayer funded, the budget went from being $5.4 billion to $9.83 billion. And they say that that is at least partly due to protracted industrial actions. So in other words, they are blaming the CFMEU for the spiraling costs on these projects. Now, the LNP actually says that the budget is closer to $19 billion. That sounds a little inflated to me. So look, yeah, perhaps, well, the CFMEU, I'm sure, did contribute to that cost blowout in some way. But can we all just always remember that infrastructure projects by either government always go over time and over cost? They always blow out. Like no matter who implements it and no matter what EBA they've negotiated. So, you know, to effectively say that like the CFMEU is responsible for a $14 billion cost blowout seems extremely exaggerated to me. So don't know if I'll give them that much credit for that. Okay. Now let's look at something that the new Nationals leader has proposed, Matt Canavan. So he wants to make it easier for public servants and professionals in regional areas of Australia to work from home. And I mean, if you think about it, often this makes much more sense because these people have longer commute times, obviously because they live in regional areas and there's going to be less infrastructure to rely on, etc. And someone who came out and said this is a great idea was Jane Hume. So,
okay.
Remember, Jane Hume is the one who basically told all inner city public servants stop being lazy cunts and go to work. She, you know, obviously she didn't word it like that, but she sort of implied. I mean, she did. She did say that like people were being like unrealistic and sort of entitled in a way to work from home arrangements that, you know, originated back during COVID. The thing is, though, my understanding is that those public servants really only work 2 days a week at home. And that doesn't sound unreasonable to me.
No.
So, anyway,
well, I guess she's time to become a public servant because Perth is the entirety of Perth and WA is a regional area.
For migration purposes, yes, it is, as is South Australia. But yeah, Jane Hume has really, she's trying to, you know, cast herself in a different light. She doesn't want people to remember her as that grumpy spokesman on industrial relations, wagging the finger at public sector workers and saying, no, you're asking for too much. So she's all for working for home now. Okay, and finally on IR, the ACTU is seeking a 5% wage rise for 3 million low-paid workers. And they say that demand would increase even further if inflation worsens. So, yeah, I mean, look, we just mentioned before, it looks like inflation is probably going to hit 5%. So I think it makes perfectly good sense then to say, all right, well, we need a 5% wage rise. How else are those workers going to keep up with the cost of living? But of course, then we're told that wage rises fuel inflation even further. So, it's funny how that works. Yeah, inflation goes up, people have less capacity to provide for themselves, and we don't increase their wages because that would actually just increase inflation further. So we just tell those workers to put on the chin.
I get a decent excuse to raise my prices even higher and rape you even more. And if you fight back, well, the rape just gets worse.
Right. Okay.
Literally that.
All right, so let's move on to one of our favorite topics. We're going to talk about anti-Semitism and the Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, Grace Tame, she has been criticized for an interview that she did recently where she was asked about an apparent double standard she has because, of course, she's a campaigner against sexual violence, being a, what they call a victim survivor. But they were asking, well, why don't you condemn Hamas and the sexual violence that they inflicted on Israelis on October 7? Well, she said this. She said she was not going to sink to the level of entertaining any kind of propaganda. When she was asked what she meant by that, she said that the claims of sexual violence on October 7 were debunked, that they were found to be false. The Murdoch press jumped all over this and went apeshit. I think Shari Markson also did some segment on this. But look, I'm pretty sure we've actually talked about it on this show before. That stuff has been debunked. It has. Yes, they did kill people and take hostages.
Of course they did.
But look, if you look at some of the official Israeli stories, they said that women endured pelvic fractures, meaning like, your pelvis bone is broken.
Yeah.
And they said that was because of like the intensity of the rape. What they're proposing there is basically impossible. You can't give someone a pelvic fracture by...
I was going to say, how hard are these guys fucking? Jesus.
Right. So, I mean, at the very least, those stories are not true. And they take the same line as like what they do on the Holocaust, and they say that, that it is extremely well documented and it is nothing but a fact and you can't dispute it. Because in the reports that I saw anyway, they never actually offered any evidence as to why these claims are apparently true. Whereas, look, if you just Google this stuff...
Remember when they put like a barbecue brisket image of like a barbecue brisket and said that was like a burned, decapitated infant?
Yeah. There was also like several AI ones that were out there. And they were really bad because like Grok was picking it up straight away, just saying, no, this is an AI image. And I remember one of them was actually shared by Ben Shapiro. Do you remember that one?
What the fuck happened to Ben Shapiro's eyebrows? Did he stop getting them fucking threaded or some shit? Because he now like literally looks like a fucking... If I was to draw Ben Shapiro right fucking now, I would go to jail. Forever.
Okay, I don't think I've seen a recent photo of him. I'll have to check that out.
It's true what they say when they get older, certain things happen.
You saw, the OnlyFans creator died the other day.
Yes.
That was the first time I ever saw a photo of him, and holy shit, did he have a Jew nose? That's one of the Jewiest, like, massive snozzes I've ever seen. And then you got Richard Spencer, like, who was basically defending him. And he said that, my guess is that, like, his biggest critics are probably also his most valued customers. No, I don't see that at all. Okay. All right, so the other big incident of the week was Tony Burke and Anthony Albanese went to the Lakemba Mosque, which is kind of like the Mecca of Australia. I believe it is the
Tony
biggest
Burke.
mosque.
Oh yeah, Lakemba would have to be the biggest mosque in this country by fucking far. It's huge. Yeah. But Tony Burke, did you fucking scroll through the attendance social media and find people you should deport on character grounds?
I'm sure there would be a few.
You bitch. You fucking bitch.
So him and Albo were sitting cross-legged inside the mosque with their shoes off, where one guy actually got quite close to them. And we're told that, you know, the people who like fought him off were not security. They were just apparently just, you know, other mosque goers during that point in time. But I mean, did they really
have their own security? I'm not even joking. That
well, they kind of need it. They needed more than Jews would.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. I got this straight from like a Lebanese. He's an older guy, so he was like a gang member in like the 80s and shit. But he's like, yeah, no, we get a mosque and then we apply for a whole bunch of. We say like, you know, we're under threat, and so we apply for a whole bunch of like high-end security certificates, and that's how you get handguns. That's how you get handguns forever. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, later on they were just trying to brush it all off. And they're going like, well, look, you know, there was thousands of people there and we walked among them and, you know, the vast majority of them were friendly. I mean, okay, fine. Most of them didn't make a scene. Does that mean most of them actually think that your current foreign policy regarding Israel and Gaza is good? I somehow doubt that. Now, you know, obviously they're trying to walk this fine line, trying to appease the Australian Jewish lobby while also appealing to the Muslim vote in Western Sydney. And so that means that you're going to upset both sides all the time. You know, you're going to upset Rabbi Shmuley, who basically said we're the most anti-Semitic country in the world. And at the same time, you're going to upset all those lebs in Western Sydney.
Imagine having a literal demographic circle that you can't square because you're just so committed to this new Australia.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I am glad that, you know, the Palestinian demonstrations are still going, because it has contributed, I think, in a slight repositioning by the Labor Party, only slight. But nonetheless, you know, when you have members of Labor referring to what is happening as collective punishment and sometimes even genocide, Bob Carr has referred to it as genocide, that was language just unimaginable coming from the Labor Party only a few years ago. So, yeah, I do think they have been steered in a different direction. Okay, what we got? Oh yeah, From the River to the Sea. This was at a Dorothy Day house. They had a banner out that said, "From the river to the sea, come get us Crisafulli." That being the Queensland Premier. So this is actually a Brisbane Catholic organisation that did this. So, yeah, I mean, churches do sometimes put like kind of, you know, third worldist type slogans and that out on their billboards and that. But yeah, this was one, I thought this was quite extraordinary. It's like, here we are breaking the law. Come and get us. Now, obviously, I don't think it should be against the law. But
fuck no.
that's pretty brazen coming from a Catholic Church organization. So they were raided by police. They're fucking raided. And for those who don't know, like, you know what a raid actually is? Like, it's not them just like searching your place. Like, they'll go through fucking everything and they'll confiscate all of your electronic devices and won't give them back to you for months. That's what a raid is.
A certain athletic paralytic, because I've only been raided once, and but I'll say a certain athletic paralytic said he's like, he didn't like having his house shape rotated.
Yeah, and I mean, I know this because I know people like Nolsey who have been raided, and they've described it to me. I'm a Fed, so I've never been raided before.
Me too. I'll see you in the office on tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah. Okay, now this other woman had the From the River to the Sea written on her shirt. She says that she didn't know that slogan was banned during protests. I got to say, I find that hard to believe. Now, she is only 18, so, maybe she's not as well informed as high-class types like us. But how could you possibly follow this situation and be out there actively protesting and not be aware of that? I mean, even if you don't watch the news, did no one at that protest come up and tell you, hey, that slogan is banned? I'm
like, we talk about this a lot, to be honest, and it's like left-leaning people, like just like mainstream left-leaning people not knowing when they've stepped on a landmine, or thinking that they could get away with being risky because in other ways they are way more edgy. They're way more edgy in other ways, and they get away with that. So like, surely we can get away with this. And then I'm seeing videos on Twitter.
You mean they go against like stuff that the Jews don't want them to do, and they don't realize just how powerful the Jewish is.
I've literally seen like multi-million subscriber left-wing influencers say one critical thing about Israel, and then suddenly they go from having sponsors and everything to just disappearing off the face of the internet. And then maybe saying, like, making a crying apology video, which, by the way, it's never enough. And
right, so a lot of those these left-wing types, they just do not realize that they're actually playing with fire. Unlike people like us, we know precisely what the risk is. And that's simply because they don't understand the Jewish question. They refuse to look at it. They refuse to see Zionism as actually part of collective Jewish behavior. In one respect, I guess, because they are so committed to the religion of anti-racism. So they just refuse to see it that way. And Noam Chomsky is their hero. The guy who was jet-setting around with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, Jesus Christ, guys. Israel doesn't control the U.S. It's the U.S. that controls Israel.
Yeah. So
that was the worst. You know why he is actually, like, now he's like senile and etc. So like, maybe
he's
not.
97 years old. He just won't die.
Because he probably fucking, where's the adrenochrome syringes? No, you know why he was a fucking power broker, like an actual fucking power broker, when J.K. Rowling, one of the fucking richest, rags to richest, women in the entirety of UK history, got in trouble for being anti-trans. Got in serious fucking trouble, as in publishers were pulling up, like libraries were fucking torching her books, publishers were ceasing publications, audiobook production companies were people were delisting Harry Potter from streaming services. Like her entire income stream of royalties was burning down around her. Who did she go to? 2 people: Gloria Steinem and Noam Chomsky.
Oh,
just remember that.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
But you know, a great Australian example is what's her name? Tash Peterson talking about the animal holocaust.
Oh yeah, like, there we go.
How dare you compare what happens to animals to the Jewish Holocaust?
I love that she got sued into the ground immediately thereafter because, like, suddenly, all these small butchers that she went and fucked with, because she never fucked with the chains. It's not like she went to, like, you know, the fucking Coles.
Well, wasn't she sued by a vet? Like, owners of some veterinary clinic sued her.
Oh no, she got a fucking class action against her. She was sued by like one possibly the vet. Like, I didn't know about that case specifically, but I know all these, like, you know, like Ishmael's fucking butchery and fucking, like, you know, like Tony's butcher and etc. All of a sudden they got all this legal aid to, like, put her into the ground, and now she's destitute.
Yeah, she's still out there doing her pranks, you know. She was at Bondi Beach recently, and she was, like, pulling fishing rods out of the sand.
Oh yeah, was that her?
They're saving the lives of fish.
Look, I've dealt with her and I've talked to her about fucking once. Like, God, she's such a fucking vapid bitch. I by the way, like, she's a narcissist. Like, you know, you can tell a narcissist.
Of course, she's a fucking OnlyFans whore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, fucking Jesus fucking Christ. Like, when it comes to her, like, when it comes to, like, okay, so you meet an activist, right? Do you want it in, like, the fucking quickest way to find out if they're sincere about, like, you know, like, you know, the causes they believe in is literally how they start their sentences.
Right.
With the narcissist, it always starts with I was here. I was at this protest. I did this. I donated that much. And they basically try and build up this, like, profile of being, like, this, you know, God figurehead, you know, right hand of God when it comes to their ideology. And when I spoke to her, she could only talk about herself.
Yeah. Edward Dutton's got a great video on veganism and vegans. Like, what is the psychological profile of a vegan?
Oh, God.
Basically, they're insane people, and they have, like, really high suicide rates. I mean, all you have to do is look at Tash Peterson, and, you know, that should be obvious. Anyway, so last week we talked about DJ Haram. So this is some Arabic woman who's a DJ, obviously, and she was at some Sydney music festival, I think. She made a number of comments condemning Israel. She called on the crowd to oppose the Zio-Australian Epstein Empire. That was one of the lines. Well, guess what? She is now being investigated by New South Wales police for violating the state's racial hate laws. So remember Brandon Koshel, the guy who is in jail right now? He got a year in prison for naming the Jew at a rally in Sydney. He was actually jailed under the state laws in New South Wales, not the Commonwealth laws. A lot of people thought it was the newly legislated Commonwealth laws, but no. New South Wales actually has, like, the most draconian speech codes and punishments for violating those speech codes in the country.
I'm trying to remember. Is that Minns?
Yes, Chris Minns. He was a total buttboy. And Jews love him. Oh, God. Right? They love him.
Dude, I was like, I thought he was Jewish. I genuinely thought he was Jewish. I was like, no way. No fucking way that this is not the case.
Yeah, so, like, when the Bondi massacre occurred, he made sure he was there at every single one of those funerals. He went to every one of them. And Albanese was being criticised for not going to all of them. Like, he went to a couple. And I just think, what? Hold on. The Prime Minister of the country, like, I think he's a bit busy. How the fuck can you expect him to go to, like, 15 separate funerals? That's ridiculous. But Chris Minns did it. And yeah, he's lauded. Jews love him. And it goes to show, it's not actually a Liberal Labour thing.
No,
it's simply who panders to the Jewish lobby the most. And, Chris Minns bent right over, exposed his ass and said, fuck me. And that's what the Liberals do.
Well, again, when I was interviewing Tom and etc., like he even said, like, oh yeah, they do love to have this like Gentile like strongman, like well presenting strongman as their champion to the public, and they like to have like this Gentile strongman, basically like indirectly but directly enough for their own community to notice, like representing how important they are. Which I do concur.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's not Australian. She's American. But yeah, she might, dare I say, face extradition. And you know what? That is definitely a crime that like America would extradite you for.
Oh yeah.
We and America's an ally, so obviously we have an extradition treaty with them. But yeah, if you're wanted for hate crimes against Jews, she'll be back over here in chains. No doubt about it.
Oh, buddy. They're going to put a fucking bride scold on her.
Oh, Christ. Okay, so in Tasmania, people have been going around putting up fake Greens stickers that contain anti-Semitic messages. So what these are, they're stickers in the shape of a triangle, which, is the symbol of the Greens, with the Greens logo and anti-Semitic messaging. So,
okay, flip a coin, based or not based?
Not based. This is like the edgy right, conservative right, calling the Greens an anti-Semitic party. I've always said that's ridiculous. Like I said before, the left does not understand the Jewish question simply because they refuse to acknowledge there is one. They are committed to the ideology of anti-racism, and they simply won't see what's going on in Israel or even in the phenomenon known as Zionism.
Yeah, dude.
They separate that.
It gets as far as Zionism and it stops.
Yes, it does. They don't go any further than that, and they're afraid to.
Or at least the ones that know about it. Like there's I know of one that's crossed the line, and he's continuing to cross the line. That's Rathbone on Twitter, on X or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, but give it long enough, he will just become a white nationalist.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, he's on the slow boil.
Yeah, like you do get that occasionally, but like those people who do that, they are they're temporary leftists. They're in a transition period, Okay. And by the way, what exactly these anti-Semitic messages were on these fake green stickers, I don't actually know. It wasn't mentioned in the article. So I guess they must have been offensive. Okay. All right. So Palestinian groups are saying that they're going to crowdfund to fight the laws in Queensland regarding hate speech.
I found them. And no, we can't repeat that on the show.
Oh, you found what was on the green stickers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you'll have to tell me after.
2 words. One starts with an F and one starts with a J. Very blunt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we can't say that.
That out.
Yeah.
Okay. So, specifically, the slogans "From the River to the Sea" and "Globalize the Intifada." They're taking the government to court about that. It's been crowdfunded. I've got no doubt that they will raise the funds because those groups are quite well organized, and there's also just a lot of people involved with them. So yeah, I mean, that's great. That would that's still related to, like, our fight as white nationalists as well, because it will set a precedent in terms of particular types of political speech that you can't outlaw.
That is, it's literally enshrined. We don't have a Bill of Rights, but we do have a fucking constitution. It is enshrined in our constitution that we have a right to political speech.
Yeah, it was determined by the High Court that the Australian Constitution guarantees political communication. That's the term used. So yeah, no, that's great. It should be challenged in court. Thomas Sewell is challenging the Commonwealth laws as well. Because the NSN is defunct now because of those laws. Those people are not going to go away, though, and they're certainly going to fight it in court.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we've talking about how the old ASIO boss Dennis Richardson was he was going to be part of the Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism in Australia. Apparently, one of the things that he was pushing for was an increase to security funding. Now, this is something that the Jewish groups demand all the time. And a lot of the time, the grants that are given to them for security purposes are not spent on security. Maybe now, because people are actually shooting them in Australia, maybe now they will actually spend it on that. But Jewish groups now are apparently very concerned that ever since Dennis Richardson left the Royal Commission, that they're not going to get that. So they've been out there very loudly complaining. And so simply because of this, I absolutely guarantee that in this report, in the interim report, because we're going to get an interim report like mid-year, I bet the interim report is going to recommend this, that they should just be given an absolute shit ton more of security funding.
Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah. Because this is the one thing they just always... Yeah. All right, let's go on to immigration. Iranians in Australia are unhappy with Tony Burke because the new laws regarding temporary visas, temporary visa holders who want to enter Australia may actually be blocked. So even if you went through and jumped through the hoops and you got your visa, you may still actually be denied entry to Australia. And the Home Affairs Department have said those most likely to be affected by these changes are people from Iran. So at least they're being honest about that. But look, these kind of measures are certainly standard. They're routine when a war breaks out.
Look, I knew, fucking Jesus Christ, I filmed the wedding of an Iranian Revolutionary Guard member over here in Australia. And, before when I was setting up, because I like to, I do like to talk to the subjects of my photography and videography. He was, the late groom was telling me about how he had to lie about his status in the Iranian Revolutionary Government to even be in this country in the first place. These laws, I guarantee you, were put because they don't want Iranian Revolutionary Guard intelligence officers in this country. Because they know it's a fucking powder keg, and the material circumstances right now are just going to make it worse.
Yeah, but also remember, apparently Iranians are involved with organised crime and stuff in Australia to, torch synagogues, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. They definitely do that. I 100% believe the statements of ASIO and the Australian Federal Police.
Right. We've actually got a story on that coming up when we talk about crime. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about this speech that Anthony Albanese made a few days ago. This was in light of the high first preferences vote that One Nation got in the South Australian election. It's not going to translate to many seats. Looks like the Liberals will still have more seats than them. But nonetheless, they had a very high primary vote. They outpolled the Liberals. And even in a lot of the seats that Labor got, One Nation polled very highly. So Albo is saying that Australians must remain vigilant against politicians seeking to return Australia to a bygone era that was less accepting of migrants. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Albanese for acknowledging the widespread support for the White Australia policy that did exist. Labor will acknowledge that, but they'll say it was a bad thing, even though it was supported by their own party. What is it, like the first 13 prime ministers, I believe, all supported the White Australia policy?
Oh god, there was explicit support all the way into the late fucking 60s, man.
Yeah, I mean, the patron saint of the Liberal Party, Robert Menzies, was a vocal supporter of the White Australia policy. There's a video on YouTube you can still watch, a black and white video of him talking about how much he supports it. So, yeah, look, this was not surprising. It's sort of like when Pauline Hanson made her maiden speech. Everyone felt the need to kind of come out and condemn her. Even John Howard did in the end. So Albo noted that just before the wave of Vietnamese refugees arrived in Australia in the late 70s, the Whitlam government officially ended the White Australia policy. And then he said this. He said, "We need to be vigilant. There are some, including some in political life, who want to turn back the clock to an Australia that is no longer who we are. And we need to call out those people. And we need to continue to cherish our diversity as a strength for our nation, which it is."
Here's a challenge, Albanese. Here's a challenge, Albanese. Put it to a fucking referendum.
Yeah, do that.
I literally had I am not even joking, a coworker with a septum piercing and alternative tattoos, I'll say it that way, literally talk about the fact that he was so pissed that he's like basically a minority English speaker in his own fucking street. And he thinks that it should just be shut off and maybe people should be deported. I had a guy with a fucking septum piercing tell me that at this point. So I'm more than fucking confident that if this was put to a referendum, we would have a deeply, deeply disappointing result that we would have to reflect on internally as the Australian people.
Yeah, look, even a lot of migrants, even a lot of non-white migrants are opposed to mass migration, like simply on economic terms. It's like in America, there's plenty of like Mexicans who don't want any more Mexicans coming in. And, I remember I even heard this Indian guy talking about how he hated how many Indians were coming to Australia now. And I asked him, I was like, well, how can you say that when you're Indian? And he said, well, I came to Australia to get away from Indians. Now they're following me here.
Yeah, no,
a lot of migrants think like that.
Granted, not a Sri Lankan, so this spear is more or less a inter-ethnic one for him. I had a Sri Lankan coworker. Oh god, like 2 years ago at this point. So this is bad enough as it is. This is 2004 we're talking about. He said that if Indians continue to migrate to Australia, they will turn this place into Gazapur, which is the dump for New Delhi.
Yeah.
I remembered that because I saw like a client that had a very similar name today, so that just popped back into my mind. But yeah, Gazapur, literally a town that was an illegal fly tipping site that became like a state mandated fly tipping site. That is now just an absolute shit pile that scavengers live in and make their living fucking selling, like stripping e-waste for fucking copper.
Yeah, and look, India for a while now has been the country that we get most of our migrants from. Historically, it's always been the UK and Ireland that we've had most of our migrants. Yeah, recently that changed. There's an absolute shit ton. And what was it? Fucking Matt Forney. I mean, I don't like the guy, but he was saying that Indians should voluntarily deport themselves from America because he predicts like anti-Indian pogroms breaking out after a while. And because people are becoming red-pilled on Indians quickly because they just have to deal with them all the time now. There's shit tons of them in every capital city now.
I'm not even joking. Because I moved into an Italian neighborhood, lemon tree and etc. And this Indian family was literally had jumped my fence and was stealing lemons from the lemon tree. And the fucking visceral reaction from my boomer Italian neighbors was astronomical. They're like, I've never seen that. I would always fucking ask you, like, and they did ask me for permission, and I always said yes. They've given me limoncello and lemon tarts, so very nice of them. And they were beyond, like, I have never seen an Italian that fucking angry. You could break 1,000 fucking spaghettis in front of them, and they wouldn't be as angry as they were because they saw that fucking happen, and I told them about that happening.
Yeah, that's like pretty normal behavior to them. There was an article I remember a few months ago about a guy who was actually Indian himself, and he lived in the UK, and he was writing about like all of the differences between UK and Indian society. So, for example, when he saw like cops were following him or something, it turned out the cops were just doing that for his own safety. Whereas in India, it would be because the cops are looking for a bribe. Things like that. India is an extremely low trust society because Indians are just always out to fuck other people over. They're just in it for themselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I my most recent boss man, we were dealing with a client of subcontinental descent, and he was, he's an older guy. He was very confused about like why this client flew off the rails when he was presented with the fact that, like, hey, look, we quoted for this, you sent this, we quoted for it, you got the price, and then you got the product at that price. And obviously this client has come back and said, like, actually, no, the product is wrong and you're wrong. When he actually sent the original email chain to him saying, like, hey, look, look at this email chain. Here's what you actually sent us, and, that's what you got. the boss man couldn't fucking understand why the dude flew off the fucking handles. And I basically said, like, hey man, like, when you're done dealing with fucking customers and contracts, look up ISAT, that is, India Zulu Alpha Tango. Look that up. And he came back after lunch break and was like, oh, okay, that's, that explains a lot, because again, logistics and freight over here is incredibly Indian. I guess it is, as it is all over the world. But yeah, he didn't have that piece of the puzzle, and it just clicked for him. He was like, oh fuck. Okay. I was like, yeah, it's a nationwide cultural shit test game that they all play with each other. And you just got fucking tagged into the game, brother.
Yeah. And we're starting to see how dishonest they can be. And I'm hearing anti-Indian stuff from, everyone. People you would never imagine to be racist.
Fucking everyone. That's the thing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the NZYQ cohort. So these are the people who were released from indefinite detention after indefinite detention was found to be illegal by the High Court. So one of these detainees has actually had, another High Court win. It's been ruled that they can't put an ankle bracelet on him to monitor him. So,
it's a violation of human rights, not like, the violation that one of them actually did to a woman. Let's ignore that.
Right, yeah. I mean, remember, many of these people, they want them to wear ankle bracelets for a reason. It's because most of them are serious criminals. So now this guy just has mandatory reporting conditions, which basically means he just has to turn up to the police station like once a week and report in. Now, this guy was convicted of murder in 2006, yet we can't put an ankle bracelet on him, and we can't keep him in detention. So, and the Australian had a story on this as well, and they said that apparently this guy was refused a protection visa by the coalition 4 times. But on his 5th attempt, this was when Labor had just come to power, and they granted it to him. So, I don't know. One of those stories that shows like one of the very small differences, I guess, between Labor and the coalition. I wouldn't put too much stock into that.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, again, I do like to say, like, we're importing, so many people because, like, so many mouths, so many eyes, so many hands, they're all economic units, right? But again, like, all this effort to bring in, a handful of people who are actively, historically detrimental, both economically and socially, to societies that they're in. This just has to be a humiliation ritual at this point, right?
Yeah. One of the things about how we get stuck with these people is we will not extradite or deport anyone who could possibly face the death penalty in their country of origin. We won't do that.
I still love that video that came out of, I believe it was like the outskirts of Dublin or something like that. And, this Irish dude was, interviewing people in a very high density migrant area. And, he goes up to this one African guy and he's like, oh, so like what you doing here? How long you've been here? And he's like, oh, I've been here 4 years. And he's like, oh, you're settled? He's like, yeah, I got like my direct provision apartments and like I don't pay rent. And, like he goes through like some incredibly aggravating things. And he says like, oh, so why didn't you go home? It's like, oh, I'm gay. That's why. And then, literally the guy was like, oh yeah, you look like a bit of a Casanova. Do you hit it off with the ladies? It's like, yeah, I'm a real ladies man. Yeah, I love me some beautiful ladies.
So he was pretending to be gay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, because some NGO gave him a pamphlet saying that like that's what you say to get. Again, I literally, if I was going to go and fucking shit test people these days, if I was going to go and like do some like as legal as it is, in both this state and this country, some like hidden camera shit, I would go into NGOs' offices with like a I don't know, I'd rent a minority and go into NGO's office and basically ask them what do I need to do to get my friend over here permanent residency. I would do that. That would be funny.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're deporting our guys who come over here, who have jobs, who pay taxes, who obey the law. But
have
because
partners that are literally citizens of this country.
But because they have a certain set of political beliefs, no, Tony Burke has to deport them. All right. Well, let's talk about climate and energy. So, guess what? Electric vehicle owners, you may be in for an EV tax. So, despite the fact that you've been a beneficiary of all these government subsidies and tax breaks and whatnot, it looks like now, with more of you on the road all the time, and I'm seeing more of these fucking BYD cars. They just fucking appeared like overnight, I swear.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just Tesla now. There's, the market has expanded. The government is now very, very seriously looking at an EV tax. So one of the reasons they're saying for this is because, well, they're actually looking to lower the excise tax on petrol. Obviously, the reason for that is, increasing fuel prices.
Yeah.
But the government has got to raise that revenue somehow. They've got to look somewhere else.
Well, again, like I'm pretty sure I may even said this on the Race That Decides. Like in Europe, originally they're like, oh yeah, if your vehicle is an electric vehicle, you have to have this sticker to register it. And then that sticker was the original purpose of that sticker was like, oh yeah, so if your car is on fire and firefighters show up, like it's a thermal resistant sticker, so the firefighters will know that they can't use conventional means on your EV because there's a whole bunch of burning lithium underneath it. So that's going to be a problem. That could cause a hydrogen gas explosion. And then they turn around and like, oh, by the way, like using the camera system, they started charging them money for every kilometer driven in an EV. Because they can't charge the kilowatt hours because you could be getting that from your house, you could be getting that from your workplace, you could be getting that from an EV charging station, but they sure as hell can charge you on how many Ks they see you driving.
Yeah, and look, I don't believe for a second that the government weren't planning this. It's part of a long-term plan. It's actually quite simple. It's like, okay, we need to speed up the amount of people who drive electric vehicles, so that we can make these fake climate targets, X amount of emissions reductions over X amount of time. So, you really speed that process up with subsidies, with tax breaks and everything. You put an enormous amount of those EV vehicles on the road and you make it so that like it's almost the norm to drive an electric vehicle. And then once you've got that many people into the market and driving these cars, well, you put the tax on them and you roll back all the subsidies that you used to have. I'm sure that was part of the government's long-term plan. I'm sure that's the way it was. And unfortunately, I think a lot of EV drivers kind of thought that the gravy train for them was just going to go forever. No.
Oh, again, like what do you think is going to be the you're actually to blame, you are actually the parasite, and that's why you need to pay? Like, where's the moral conundrum going to come in, and what's going to be the excuse for it? Is it going to be like, well, this tax is similar to fuel and vehicle registration taxes? Like, oh, it's to pay for road maintenance. Would the excuse for this one be, oh, you need to pay for grid updates. You need to pay for all the extra copper and nickel needed to supply your electric vehicle with the electricity and the kilowatt hours. I think it's going to be that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all legit, isn't it? I mean, that's true. I don't know if it costs more for infrastructure for electric vehicles compared to fossil fuel vehicles, but obviously there's a cost there. And I mean, the government one day wants everyone to be driving an electric vehicle. So let's imagine we reach that point where there's 100% EVs on the road. Does anyone really think that the government would allow all of those drivers to drive around tax-free? Does anyone think that? Absolutely no way. If it moves, you tax it. Libertarians are right about that when it comes to governments. If it moves, the government will tax it.
What about a fucking house? What about land? They tax that too.
They will. They'll tax you for hiring people as well. So,
yeah.
Okay. Now, a story here says that benchmark power prices are actually set to drop. Now, they're putting that down to an increase in battery storage and a reduced need for expensive gas generation. But what the hell does all of that matter when you take into account what's happening in the Middle East right now?
Dickhole.
So if this wasn't happening, if the Middle Eastern war right now was not happening, apparently we were supposed to see a decrease in electricity prices. I don't know about that. I suspect this is propaganda. I'm getting this story from the ABC. I suspect this is propaganda from the ABC, just saying like, hey, the reason why you're paying like more fuel prices and higher electricity prices or whatever, it's purely because of this war. It doesn't have anything to do with the green energy policies that the government is forever pushing.
Oh man, I love that. Like, living in WA, we've only got one energy provider. I'm kind of fucking jealous of other states that have multiple. So that there's a little bit of market bargaining, and that's coming from me, like an ex-socialist. So take that without wax and without salt.
Hey, you're still a socialist, aren't you? You're a national socialist.
Yes. I'm somewhat of a socialist myself, Peter. That one Spider-Man meme.
Yeah. So here in WA we have Griffin Coal. Now, believe it or not, this is actually a mining company. They mine coal, obviously, that are being propped up by the state government. Now, that sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? Well, you see, basically everything in our town of Collie, which is, basically an area that is run by coal. That's the lifeblood of their economy. Through the government's various policies to discourage coal mining and coal-fired stations, basically all the companies in Collie packed up and pissed off. They said, all right, this is not financially viable for us anymore. We're going to leave. Well, they left a bit too early because our state power supply still relies to a large extent on coal. So ironically, after the government chased out all of these companies, they provided financial assistance to Griffin Coal to stay. Now, the agreement could actually now allow them to walk away from obligations that they made.
Walk away. There's been too much coal burning.
So Griffin Coal is they're now more than $1 billion in debt. And basically it's coming at an increasing cost to the taxpayer, the WA taxpayer, to keep them alive because they're just running at a loss all the time.
You know, I did actually have the honor of last night talking to a man who grew up in Collie. But yeah, no, I actually made a note in the show. It's like every time we get to energy, we fucking harp on Collie because like it is one of the larger tragedies of the state of Western Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an absolute fucking. It is a government manufactured fucking shitfest based on international ideology. Like that's the easiest way to sum it all up. Collie was completely and utterly fucking sufficient, both in coal supply and converting it to usable kilowatt hours for not only just, by the way, like it's far away, it still supplies kilowatt hours to Perth, but also the entire fucking Peel region.
Yeah, and I mean, Collie was built on it. Their economy was just completely based around coal. And that meant that there were a lot of good jobs there. I've got two mates who are engineers, and they've worked in Collie before, and they said they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been told it's a town full of very, very real people.
Yeah, it's a good mix of middle class and working class over there, and they get along. You know, class divisions are kind of broken down. Probably not anymore, but they used to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so 9 applications for coal exploration licenses on greenfield sites in New South Wales will be extinguished under a major policy change introduced by the Minns government. So building new mines on undeveloped sites will also be banned. So the mining lobby has referred to this as disappointing. I'd say they probably wanted to use much stronger language than that. New bids to explore coal sites will be prohibited. But applications for mine expansions will be allowed if the proposed extension is on the fringes of an existing site. So, okay, this is New South Wales basically doing the same kind of thing that we did here in Collie. And who knows, maybe the New South Wales government will then have to step in and prop up one of these companies to keep coal going because they just discourage so much investment that all of the coal miners piss off. All right. Oh, God. So Albo's plan to make Australia become the West's most trusted supplier of rare earth and critical minerals will obviously require massive infrastructure boost across the top end, the northwest, I guess they're talking about here. So the Minerals Council of Australia says that this would cost around about $44 billion. So that would be on transport upgrades, infrastructure, stuff like that. I guess, if we've got to compete with China, I guess they're one of our critical minerals competitors, then, we need to invest in stuff like that. I don't know if the Albanese government's ideology quite comports with this, though.
Oh, I believe he can be quite flexible when need be. He's a politician. And a chud hater, after all.
Okay, just quickly on the environment. The Australian Conservation Foundation has identified numerous cases of land clearing, this is in New South Wales, that should have actually only occurred with environmental approval. Now, this is due to the new koala laws. So remember, these laws were passed, I believe, actually by the coalition government, not all that long ago.
I thought the koala laws were passed to stop to legalize gay men giving each other syphilis and chlamydia.
Well, yeah, like koalas, all have they have chlamydia, don't they?
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I remember this actually was going to blow up the coalition in New South Wales, like the Libs and the Nats. The Nationals were really opposed to these laws because they saw them as too restrictive for farmers. Yeah, so a lot of these areas where they've got, trees and stuff that they log to clear land, well, a lot of those trees apparently have koalas living in them. So you've got to seek approval. And in some cases, I assume you have to arrange something where you take those koalas out of the trees and put them somewhere else. A lot of the farmers are apparently ignoring this and just felling the trees anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would like to protect God's most retarded creature. I feel some kind of kinship with it.
Jim Jeffries, I know he's a total degenerate, but he did a great routine on koalas, talking about how they're always held as these real cute, cuddly creatures of Australia.
Oh no!
When you look at their actual behaviour and their life,
they are actually disgruntled shitheads.
They're really lazy, degenerate animals. Actually, they all have chlamydia. All they do is just eat gum leaves all day, and also they sleep. They sleep even more. They sleep more hours than the sloth.
Yeah.
They spend the vast majority of their lives asleep.
Yeah, no.
Also vicious as well.
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say there's one redeeming part of the koala. The video of it attacking a whole bunch of Chinese tourists. Because these Chinese tourists that came, they're like, "Oh my god, it's a cute little koala. It's down by the road," and they get close to it, and it starts doing that really disgusting guttural growl, and they're like, "Oh, okay, okay, I guess that's the sound that it makes," and it literally just starts charging at the fucking kid and starts biting him.
Yeah, and they've got massive claws as well.
For climbing.
You can go and cuddle the koala, but it comes at a risk. You can actually get pretty badly hurt by a koala.
You have to put the koala on a heavy dose of fentanyl before you cuddle it. Yeah. Oh no, we're not for animal abuse. I know, preserve the koala. It's God's. I swear to God, if you told me that the koalas didn't actually have brains but they had ganglia, I would be like, wow, that is a really inefficient ganglia. Just for the audience, ganglia is the primitive version of a brain. It's what insects have, and crocodiles, surprisingly enough.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. I learned something today. All right. On to our Indigenous friends. So we have new findings from the Productivity Commission on closing the gap data. Well, as per usual, most of the metrics here are not on track. Only 4 out of the 19 targets are on track. Now, one of them that they're saying they're falling behind on is healthy birth weights. So a lot of Aboriginal children are being born underweight, in other words, and that's due to all sorts of things.
Yeah, I was going to say, what the biggest cause of underweight births?
Alcohol.
Yep. FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah. FASD. That's what they call it, isn't it now? FASD. It's a disorder.
Yes.
Not really. It's it's the mother getting tanked during pregnancy. even though you're told like you shouldn't actually drink at all when you're pregnant.
No, they still do. I still actually,
Yeah.
by the way, like I've got a bone to pick with the Australian government and regulatory bodies. I remember when I was considering becoming a bartender back in 2015, 16, more than a decade ago at this point. And one of the questions that I flopped was like, oh, there's a woman who, acknowledges that she's actually pregnant. Like, can you refuse to serve her? And I said, yes. So I was like, yeah, I'll refuse service at that point. Nope. Not allowed to.
Oh, wow. That makes no sense at all.
Yep, yeah, I should have the right to refuse her service. There we go. I'm not even joking.
If you ever see these Aboriginal kids with FASD, they basically just look like 20 years older. Like they have the face of like a scruffy adult.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you seen one that doesn't have FASD? I haven't. Show me one that doesn't. Show me one that fucking doesn't. I challenge you.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of them just have it to a varying degree. But, when you see one where, has it bad, it's just like they have the face of like a really fucked up adult. It's scary to see.
Yeah.
But no, also...
Maybe one of the political ones in Melbourne. Probably there's one without
when it comes to imprisonment and suicide, those are actually going backwards. Imprisonment is increasing, suicide is increasing. So you cannot close the gap.
No.
And apparently, the deadline for the gap is coming up. I forget the date exactly, but I don't think it's far away.
Incredibly brutal? You can't close the gap, but you can fucking lock the fucking door in the cage.
Yeah.
If you want the outcomes that this government is looking for with the Close the Gap campaign, I'm not even joking. Zoos. Not zoos. Fucking
that's the only way you can do it, because you'd have to completely control their environment.
A gigantic creche, a creche that fucking goes from birth to death, cradle to grave, like a gigantic creche that we keep these people in as like a conservation program.
Yeah, be like in Brave New World. For those of you who've read that book.
Yes, the wilds where the was it where the guy's mother, the dude's mother ends up or some shit. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. With the wild people.
It's been quite a while since I read it.
Yeah.
But they got like one of the guys from that world.
And they brought him to the controlled world, and he basically got depressed and wanted to kill himself.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great book if you haven't read it, and it's only a short book as well.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Okay, so at the Federation Council in New South Wales, their chambers have actually decided to remove Indigenous flags, so the Aboriginal flag and the Torres Strait Islander flag. Now, the council received 800 submissions, and more than 3/4 of them urged it not to remove the flags. Okay, now this story comes from the ABC. Now, that does not mean that 3/4 of the people within that council area support keeping the flags. That's not what that means. Who are the people who make submissions to councils and to governments? They're always like left-wing NGOs, like every fucking time. These are activist groups. It's what they do. They write letters and they lobby government. So whenever governments accept submissions for whatever it might be, like when they accepted submissions for the Medivac bill, if we remember that, basically that was like people lying about their medical conditions so they could come on shore to Australia and then never leave. Like that Iranian who injected vegetable oil into his dick. If you look at the submissions that were made for that, they all came from groups like Amnesty International, right? They dominate this stuff, right? So that's not the ABC saying that, oh, look, 3/4 of them say that they don't want this. No, that's 3/4 of the activist groups who made submissions. Okay?
Yeah.
That does not mean the people themselves. And you got to
That's
ask,
always
like,
the problem
why
with
is the council? Why is the council actually making this decision? Because people are obviously complaining to them. They don't like the flags and they don't like Welcome to Country or any of that crap.
Yeah, I was going to say that also, you know, like, it's one of the problems you run into with, like, explicitly political polling is that the only people who fucking respond to that shit are activists. Yeah, the only people who fucking share that stuff in their Telegram or WhatsApps or whatever the fuck, they're activists.
Yes.
The general population will respond maybe at the ballot, and maybe in crowds. That's how you actually get your finger on the pulse of the poly, the many.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah. So, sorry, just trying to find where this one is. No, hold on. I'll just skip that one. Let's go to crime.
Yeah.
All right. So, so Victoria Police are claiming that crime in Victoria is beginning to stabilize. Now, that's despite the fact that new data is actually showing that offending has surged to new record levels. Remember, they already went to record levels previously. They're continuing to rise. So this is due to widespread theft and breaches of bail. So this shows 630,592 offences were recorded across the state in 2025, which is an increase of 4.2% in a year. The number of criminal incidents surged to a record 473,262, which is the highest since the agency began reporting back in 2004. Look, I won't go through every stat here. Suffice to say, there is a lot of them. We talk about things like property crimes, assaults, carjackings, all that kind of thing. Basically, all of it is up.
Oh, yeah.
All of it is up.
I still love the... God, who actually fucking did it? I need to bring them up quickly. Just give me 2 seconds because it is the first... I love 9 News literally blaming car manufacturers for carjackings and car thefts. and the Victorian government, by the way, as well.
Yeah. Now, I don't know why the Victoria Police are coming out there and saying this. I would have thought that they would be keen to inform the public that no crime is actually going up, because if people know about that, the police will perhaps become better resourced. So maybe they're just trying to convince people that they have a handle on all of this when actually they don't. And they're just trying to prevent panic and vigilante action, stuff like that.
Well, is the head commissioner up for replacement soon? Because that's kind of the rhetoric that they before they go up to go up to basically being replaced by it's not the mayor. God, fucking, I'm blanking. What is our equivalent position? It's
okay.
Lord something or whatever. But yeah, when they're coming up to basically getting selected, they're saying like, oh yeah, we're dealing with crime. But like, look how low it is. But da 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 da. And as soon as they're elected, they actually tell the truth. It's like, oh yeah, it's up. But yeah, 9 News over here is basically saying like, yeah, carjackings and car theft is like it's literally at a multi-decade high, and that's even a statistical error because the decade that they're referencing, basically Australia had like if you're living on a street of like 100 people, one dude had a car.
Oh man. Yeah, and look, every time I see one of these stories in Nine News or something like that, it's Sudanese or some other African. You know, they're always like black as the ace of spades every time. Okay. All right. So the federal government is cracking down even further on illicit tobacco and illegal vapes. So they're expanding police surveillance powers and giving officers more power to seize goods and actually just shut down places that are selling them. So
yes,
rather than actually reduce the excise tax, we're going to go out and spend more taxpayer money this way.
Well, again, like there was even fucking Jesus Christ. I will say there was word, and I don't believe this to be true at all, that they might consider dropping the excise tax on cigarettes themselves because these vape stores are bringing in more money from the younger generation from vapes.
Yeah. All right. So, oh yeah, remember the story about the tranny who had 2 foster children?
Oh fuck.
So yeah, it turns out
the murderer.
The government tried to get him out of that house like as quick as possible. And it's been revealed that the government spent $700 for 3 nights accommodation for this guy, just because they wanted to get him out of there as quick as they possibly could. So
where
now
did you say the Waldorf Astoria?
Well, look, I mean, this guy, and by the way, if you forget, he killed 3 people, including his partner, a woman. So I guess he lived as like a straight cis man before. Now and he's just like some kids. Yeah. You look at the photo of him, he's just some guy who wears a wig and says he's a woman. So the government rightly came under fire as a result of that. Okay, just go through some of these other stories quickly. So New South Wales. So they're introducing reforms to increase penalties for people who are convicted of hate crimes against the LGBT community, but specifically what these are about is people who have been luring homosexuals for meetups and then bashing them. Now, look, these, they've been going on for a while, but like it used to be that they would lure them because like they were looking for teenagers. They were pedophiles, and people would pose as teenagers and lure them. And when white people did this, they would just greet them with a video camera and say, "Why are you coming here to pick up a young boy?" And it was a good way of naming and shaming them and that. Now it's a little different. Now they're not targeting pedophiles; they're just targeting gays generally. But it's not white people who are doing this; it's Arabs, and they're actually doing it showing Islamic State graphics and insignia.
Yes, they just arrested some Arab kid for trying to import an ISIS flag recently, actually.
Yeah, so they lure them, and there was something on 7:30 about this a couple of weeks ago. They really like fucking brutally bash them, like really bad. So I don't know. It's even stuff that I look at and I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But it's one of those ironies of multiculturalism. We're importing all these third worlders, and guess what? They don't like gays where they come from, and they're going to bring that over here.
I'll be the director and producer. we'll get you some face makeup, and maybe I'll get some of the other guys. We'll make a pro-Arab movie for a leftist, a film awards event, or film show event. And it'll be a pro-Arab movie about them completely and utterly beating the piss out of a fucking pedophile with a very, very suspicious last name. Let's see how that goes down.
I'd say, some of these people that they're targeting may well be pedophiles. Considering the fact that homosexual men, statistically, are much, much more likely to be pedophiles. But
I really don't care.
But these people, they're not anti-gay in like the Tony Abbott way. They're anti-gay in the ISIS way, and they deal out quite the brutality. Okay. So here in WA, police have been overruled in their attempt to take firearms off the estranged relative of a bikie. So, this was someone who simply had a relationship with a bikie, and the police used that as grounds to try and confiscate their weapons. Ever since these laws were passed, police have basically just been trying to take the guns off anyone they know has them. And this is one of those incidents. Now, this was taken to court. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, just taken to the tribunal. And they found that there was no proper basis for that decision and overturned it. So, thankfully, there are actually some limits here as to what the police can do in terms of confiscation.
I did learn about some recent raids as well, locally, in relating to this. Unfortunately,
yes, I heard. I don't have I haven't looked at the details of that, but I think I know what you're talking about. So look, there's also been there's a bit of finding that many gun owners in Australia are using a so-called loophole to acquire guns. Now, what this actually means, it's not really a loophole. It's people who are getting guns are saying that they use them for recreational purposes. Because, look, if you didn't know, there's only two reasons that exist for owning a firearm. One is for recreation, like you're a member of a shooting club or something. And the other is that you work on a farm and you slaughter animals. That's it. You cannot use the reason that you want them for self-defense. You can't do that.
Oh, yeah, no.
So what New South Wales police found, though, was that many, many people who are saying that they use them for recreational purposes are actually not members of like any shooting club or anything. Despite the fact that they're using that as their reason. So what they do is they they sign up to like some local club or something, but they never go there. They never actually use the place. They just keep the guns. So
well, I'll say this, I don't know if this is just the mainstream ones or etc., but there's an American term called like a FUD. It's basically he's a gun owner or like a person in the gun culture that is basically like so incredibly law compliant that it's almost toxic to his own community. Normally an older gentleman says 22 is all you need, right? But there's like a version of FUDs here in Australia where they're like either a manager or somewhere higher up on a gun club, or maybe even just a member who will monitor for people joining the gun club and make a literal physical note of when they come in. And if they don't think that number is high enough for that sports shooting club, they report them to the fucking police. Like the snitch bastards that they are.
Damn. Yeah, that's low. But I mean, having a gun in self-defense, I think, is a totally legitimate reason for owning a gun.
Yeah, again, like I've told fucking people around the world this. I said, like, if someone broke into if you legally own a handgun, say you're part of a sports shooting club in that case, which is like that's the only way you can have a handgun in this country. If you had a handgun, someone broke into your house, opened fire on you, wounding, killing one of your family members, and you opened fire back on them, guess who's getting raped in a fucking prison cell for the next X many years of your life? Because it ain't the guy who just killed your fucking... It ain't the guy who just fucking blew the brains out of your wife or kids.
Well, it's also my understanding that in most jurisdictions, you can keep the gun in your house, but you can't keep it loaded.
Yes.
You have to keep the gun and the ammo separate.
Yes.
So, if someone invades your house, you then have to go through the trouble of loading the gun to be able to use it. Which, in a situation like that, you just don't have time.
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah. Okay, so final crime story is the Australian Medical Association has criticised the Queensland government's decision to scrap drug diversionary laws. Now, this is interesting because the AMA is actually a very pro-liberal organisation. They're basically the union for doctors, but they're aligned with the Liberal Party. A lot of people, a lot of politicians from the Liberal Party actually come from the AMA. But yeah, they're saying that according to scientific evidence that's out there, drug diversionary laws work. So, look, I don't know. I certainly don't want to get too lenient on drugs, but I think there's probably room for these diversionary programs if you can actually get them help and treat it as a health issue. I'm not opposed to that. But I'm also, I don't like the idea of just this, slap on the wrist approach where you have to be caught 3 bloody times to get a fine, finally, for drug offenses.
Yeah. I don't look. One time you're strong at, I know that recidivism with drugs is almost hyper characteristic of it. But yeah, no, at what point do you become a criminal case in your own? And for me, I've got zero fucking tolerance, both drug use and drug dealing.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, no,
you consume drugs also.
No. Oh no. But yeah, no, I just fucking hate it. At what point do you just become a criminal case?
Yeah, you've got to do it at least 3 times, which is too much, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And also, I don't see why you can't, be part of the diversionary project and get a fine. I don't get why we can't do both. Okay. So let's go to the states and party politics. We'll just skim through a few of these. So Jacinta Allan has described speculation on her leadership as scallywag gossip. But according to the ABC, there are multiple sources from within the Labor Party who are saying that these conversations have been occurring because she's actually doing badly in the polls, and we've got a Victorian election coming up in November. And it looks like, believe it or not, the Liberals might actually get back in power in Victoria. Now, they have said, though, that no one is counting numbers yet, so it's not too serious. Now, Jacinta Allan is backed by the left faction, but the Australian is saying that their sources are telling them that the left faction is actually willing to side with the right faction to get rid of her. and I guess install a right faction aligned leader. So we'll wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if Labor tried something new before the November election. Now, Jacinta Allan's recent trade mission to China, apparently this has cost $250,000.
What the fuck?
So this was to take herself and a small number of backbench MPs, 4 of them. And yeah, they claimed an enormous amount on flights and accommodation. So, whenever politicians take these trips, they always fly like first class.
Of course.
Or at least
if not private, if not fucking charter private.
Yeah. Which is why, Pauline Hanson actually made a good point the other day when she said, look, yes, we have been flown around in Gina Reinhardt's private jet, but would you rather we flew around at the taxpayer's expense? She's saying, well, look, this came at absolutely no cost to the taxpayer. Maybe you should look at it that way. I thought, yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's still concerning, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jess Wilson, who is the opposition leader in Victoria, she's urging voters not to waste their ballot on One Nation. So she's saying that One Nation could actually be the spoiler in this upcoming election because obviously, just like South Australia, they're going to target seats. I assume that they're going to run candidates in every seat, just like they did in South Australia. So, what's interesting about that is we might even get into a situation where no party gets a majority and One Nation and the Libs go into coalition with each other. That would be very, very interesting. Especially seeing that in the country's most progressive state. That would be very interesting.
And they all have to play together like good little children?
Jesus. That's right.
Imagine the fucking adult kabuki theater that would need to fucking happen for that narrative to work.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll be watching it with glee if that does happen.
I'll put it this way: I'll have a decent amount of fucking content for this show.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so in the Queensland LNP, the latest expense reports have revealed that the wages bill for staff working for the Premier, David Christodoulou, has cost taxpayers $22.64 million in the past 6 months. So there you go. It's not just Labor ripping you off. The Libs do it too. The politicians, but also their staffers, are always, get a handsome remuneration. They always are able to look after themselves. So the WA Labor Party, this is sort of related to them. It's to do with a former MP, this guy called Barry Urban. He's kind of forgotten about now, but he had to resign from the parliament in disgrace after it was found that he had faked his university credentials and also a fake career in the military. Anyway,
dude, that's the worst thing about the fucking the ADF, man. You can literally just be a fucking you can literally just be a fucking cleaner and be do like a fucking pencil pusher role or some fucking shit and claim legitimately like, oh yeah, I was in the fucking Australian Defence Force. It's so fucking easy.
Yeah. But he got away with it for a while, and then I don't know, the media eventually started, sniffing around into his background. So you see, before this, he actually owned a mechanics place in Kelmscott. Kelmscott, by the way, listeners, is one of our dodgy suburbs.
I'll put it this way: there's a gas station / service station in Kelmscott where CB radio guys like to fight each other at. So these are truckers and meth heads and radio hobbyists. The threat is come find me at the Kelmscott British Petroleum. I'll knock your block off.
Oh God. Well, anyway, Barry Urban is dead now. He died last year. This was during a argument that he had with a customer at the shop, and the customer punched him in the head, and then his head hit the concrete, and he died in hospital later. So it was one of those cases where he didn't mean to kill him, but yeah, that can happen when you knock someone out and they just go down hard on the floor.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy who did it, his name is Jerry Massipar, 26-year-old, and I mean I saw the photo of him. He looks like an islander, and the last name would suggest that he's an islander. Now, on top of that, this guy actually assaulted another person on the same day, and
Jesus,
and was involved in aggravated burglary as well on the same day.
All right, so we just have a fucking violent fucking psychopath on the loose.
Yeah, this guy was just like out on a fucking crime spree. And by the way, he's pleaded not guilty to it.
Oh, actually, just for the American listener, in relation to how this man died, we had this spree of like drunken brawls which ended in fatalities, and basically like someone got struck in the head, got knocked out, fell the wrong way onto concrete, and then just died of a fatal brain injury or a brain bleed. Would you like to know what we called it? Would you like to know what the news called it? A king hit.
Yeah, and that's
thank you, news media, for making an advertisement campaign for fucking like functional manslaughter.
Yeah, well, that's why in Sydney, they had those lockout laws, which were only recently repealed. It was because of people whose head was just meeting the concrete and then dying a few days in prison. Dying a few days later in hospital. They were sometimes referred to as one punch laws because that's all it took. But also I got to add that this guy, this islander, who killed Barry Urban and assaulted another man on the same day and committed aggravated burglary on the same day, he appeared in court with a translator. So, this clearly should not have been in the country. But that's the type of people we import now. Okay, let's just skip over a few of these. Not all of these stories are interesting. So, Federal One Nation. Pauline Hanson is going to receive a $100,000 pay increase. Now, after Barnaby Joyce defected to One Nation, giving them a seat in the lower house. Now, that combined with what they have in the Senate officially makes them a minor party. Now, even though we always refer to One Nation as a minor party, on paper they actually haven't been until now. They were a micro party. So just because of that, Pauline Hanson gets a $100,000 a year pay increase. And I've noticed the media reporting on this stuff a lot. That there's always interest when One Nation gets more money, whether it be through electoral funding or just wage increases or whatever. And I was saying actually if you listen to our latest Race to Size episode, Pauline Hanson absolutely hates being asked about electoral funding.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's a sore spot. It's a touchy point because she went to jail over it. The conviction was quashed, sorry, I should say, was quashed eventually, but she spent like a few months in jail, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which would be enough to make anyone bitter. I reckon Joel Davis has probably done more time, though, than
likely
Pauline did. And Joel has not even been convicted of anything.
Oh, fucking buddy. Like, I would hate to see what comes out of prison, because it won't be the Joel Davis that went into prison.
No, it won't.
Just like Tom, like he came in like, you know, like relatively mild and relatively like, you know, I wouldn't say not serious, but like not as motivated. And the Tom that came out after 7 months, Jesus.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, I mean, this is not us calling Joel Davis soft or anything. It's a simple fact. You know, a few months in basically total isolation is going to change anyone. So, you know,
I just think that makes people more radical and more focused. I think that's one of the biggest failures of the state, being like, oh yeah, we'll just throw this guy in jail and they'll demoralize him. It's like, you do not understand the psychology of these people, do you?
No, it's the complete opposite. They think, okay, now I'm even more motivated to tear down this rotten system. That's what happens. That's what just happened to that English guy who was released recently. Sorry, I forgot his name. He's actually got a book out on Antelope Hill, which is kind of about his time in jail in the UK. But he was jailed for 2 years for stickering, for putting up fucking stickers. And he's a great example of someone who is like now more motivated than ever to take up the fight. You know, jail did not dissuade him at all. Okay, now, a new study has come out finding that a majority of Australians do not feel represented by politicians and want laws to enforce truth in political advertising and tackle undue influence. So, like from lobbyists and donors, that kind of thing.
That last bit, that might be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it would be. Now, so this, as reported by the ABC, civic and transparency groups, whoever they may be, they're calling for reforms to restore falling trust in Australia's democracy. And so experts are linking the resurgence of populist protest voting at the expense of major parties. Yeah, well, I guess that is part of it. Western countries in general are becoming more fragmented, not just because of multiculturalism. There being, you know, competing cultural and ethnic groups, but also because people are just disillusioned with the system, and they feel like it doesn't matter who they vote for, they get the same outcome every time, and nothing changes. So, you're not going to fix that. Reforms.
I was going to say, you know that New South Wales or New South Wales Metro Police put out an ad where they literally have people speaking every language but fucking English, saying that you should be policing your community. I'm waiting until we get like a Yongli or Yongkuli style fucking thing where we have like a Chinese group of police officers like patrolling the Hindu neighborhood and etc. Because that literally, in terms of statecraft, that's the only way forwards for this fucking nightmare that is the new Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, look, I do want to return to that bygone era that Albo talks about. I yearn for that. Okay, so I'd say most of us have seen the new Bureau of Meteorology website, and everyone thinks it's shit. I certainly think it's shit. I thought the previous one was a lot better. Well, guess what? The same company who created that new website has just won a $16 million contract to develop a climate data website for the federal government. So, and if you don't know, the bomb website that they redesigned cost $96 million. How the fuck does it cost that much to revamp a website? Yeah, 96 million.
By the way, to make it literally functionally more shit than the previous one.
Yeah, I mean they were paid $96 million to make the website worse.
By the way, this was on fucking ABC Shorts. The ABC said like, oh yeah, there's been like heightening complaints about the usefulness of the website, and I was like, so you're one part of the Australian government is literally having an open forum of criticism to another part of the Australian government.
No, it's crazy.
That must be bad.
Yeah, it must be. Okay, so just some quick stories to finish us off here. Education. So the Education Minister, Jason Clare, is saying that teenagers from poor families have fallen 5 years behind those from wealthy families in reading. So Jason Clare said that disadvantage is cemented in, and they're going to pump an extra $16.5 billion into public schools over the next decade to try and close this gap between literacy rates of those from poor families versus those from wealthy families. Now, look, this is a little bit like the closing the gap stuff we were talking about before.
Yeah, there's other metrics at play, but also the same metrics should be considered.
Yeah, I mean, and there would be a racial component to this as well. A lot of these teenagers they're talking about from poor families, well, you know, a lot of them are from Aboriginal families or from the multitude of brown shite that we've imported.
The colourful tapestry of humanity, I like to call it.
Yeah, but look, even when you control for race, you know, look, let's be honest, there still are class differences. You know?
Oh, of course.
So, yeah.
Of course. Well, the difference is in so many generations, like in you know, class mobility in Europeans is you know, quite notable. In fact, that's the reason why we have the term class mobility in the first place. Caste mobility, unfortunately, not so much. It'll take about a generation a bit for me to turn a poor family into a rich family. It would take literally millennia in the other case.
Yeah, you're talking about actually running through the evolutionary process, which, yes, takes a very, very long time. But, you know, like, but we shouldn't expect every kid to be, like, 100% literate either, you know? Like, this is the problem that so many people on the left have is, like, they're obsessed with, like, engineering society so that everyone can attain, you know, this level of education or skill or whatever. And it's like, why? Why do you want to do that? Like, it doesn't really make sense. And you can't do it. You can't make everyone the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I did actually have a conversation with someone about this recently. There's like, you know, like everyone wants to, you know, engineer out the poor from society or engineer out the dumb from society or engineer out like whatever metric they want to get rid of from society. It's like, you do realize that humans, it doesn't matter where your mean, it doesn't matter where your median is. There's always going to be a bell curve. You can shift those two metrics as much as you want through like, you know, hell or high water or dismemberment or lobotomy. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a bell curve because none of us are made the same. None of us.
Yeah.
Not even your sister or brother is made the same.
Even your twin brother is not made the same.
Yeah. You have different fingerprints.
I'm going to quote. This is a quote I learned, back in my libertarian days by Friedrich Hayek. He's the guy who wrote The Road to Serfdom. He does have a quote that I still like, which is, "There is all the difference in the world between treating people equally and trying to make them equal."
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good advice. No matter who you talk to, you be just as polite to them as you would to another person, but don't think you can somehow mold them into being the same. You can't do that. Okay, now, we've heard for years that there is a shortage of teachers and we have far too little people studying teaching in university. Well, believe it or not, the first time in years, this is actually turning around. Now, why is that? Well, it's because teaching is seen to be an AI-proof profession. In other words, the profession of teaching is not threatened by the rise in artificial intelligence. Now, at the same time, people enrolling in computer science courses has actually gone down. That's fallen by 2.9%, but those enrolling in teaching has gone up by 6%. And when these people have been asked, like, why did you do that? They're saying, like, well, I'm not going to be a programmer. I'm not going to be a front-end developer or whatever, because ChatGPT can do that work now.
Yeah.
But, we're still a long way off having robots in the classroom.
Yeah.
If you go to teaching, it is a pretty secure job.
Yes, it is. Also, I was going to say, like, I possibly have said this before, possibly multiple times, but I said, like, the current AI models, especially for text and, like, news aggregation, information aggregation, they're LLMs. And the best explanation I had for the layman about what they are, because I know about linear algebra, like, like that's what they run off. They basically have this big, it looks like a clock hand on a fucking graph with multiple quadrants, and, like, it basically flips around until it finds the thing that is closest to its training data to what you put into it. But imagine you have a dog, and then you force it to listen to a whole bunch of conversations in English. Give it a treat every single sentence, right? And then by the end of this, like, grueling, possibly, like, multiple lifespans for a dog, really, process, you have a dog that you can speak to in English and it gives you a reasonable response back. The thing is, the dog has no clue what the fuck it's saying.
Right.
So it's open to hallucination, and it's open to weird fuck-ups, and it's open to a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's what your modern-day advanced AI model is. It's a dog that you train to speak English that doesn't actually understand English.
Yeah. It has no sense of itself.
No.
It is obviously not a sentient being. And
I had a very cool coworker. Start of 2024 at this point, really. And he used to use the word hallucination for when an AI fucks up and goes overboard or goes, like, offside. I used to say hallucination, and I tend to agree that is a decent term for it, because it's when an LLM goes overboard, like, it looks like someone having a fever dream.
God, okay. All right, so on disability, a disability support worker has been found to have rorted almost $200,000 from the NDIS. So this guy provided the details of 90 participants on the NDIS with another support worker from different organizations, and shared in about $190,000 obtained through fraudulent claims. There was another one noted by the Noticer as well. It was some Muslim woman who actually got up to the $300,000 mark. So,
oh god,
the Noticer have actually documented a lot of these, and they tend to be foreigners, the ones who are doing it. COVID is something we haven't talked about in a while. So, the Allan government has settled a class action against them. This was brought by business owners in Melbourne, and this was to do with the hotel quarantine program, if we remember that, when people were forced to stay inside hotel rooms. And you had dodgy things going on, like people were bribing the security guards to be able to leave and come back again. Apparently, some of the women were even prostituting themselves in order to do this.
Do you remember that Aboriginal-owned business that literally got fucking... Yeah,
it was an Aboriginal-owned security company.
It's like, oh yeah, by the way, if you fucking suck my dick, I'll allow you to sneak out and go out of the town for a little bit.
Yeah, that actually happened. Well, anyway, this has been settled for the amount of $125 million, which, of course, you, the Victorian taxpayer, will pay for. So, on gambling, there's been a new study that's found that gambling advertising is increasingly being targeted towards women. So, this is through social media and influencers. So, there's stuff to do with betting on women's sport, of course, and generally it's sold to women as a form of empowerment, right?
Of course.
Gambling is empowerment. Like in the same way they say that like pole dancing is empowering.
Oh, the same way that fucking Edward Bernays put a whole bunch of smoking women in front of a suffragette march.
Yeah, so
literally the same. Literally.
This is another method where, like, you convince women that this is like a pro-feminist thing to go and do. Like, why let men have all the fun losing their money on betting on sports? You can do it too.
Why not be a fucking whore? Being sex positive is being pro-feminist. It's owning your female body. No, it's degrading yourself, and literally, I can't even tell you how many fucking ex-porn stars I could find who have put out testimonials about how like they fucking feel destroyed emotionally, and that they'll never live a life.
The average amount of time a female porn star spends in the industry is 1 year. That's a pretty high turnover rate. Why do they spend such a small amount of time in it? Because, it's soul destroying.
Well, there's a woman with daddy issues born every minute, unfortunately.
And and men are affected by it in that they're mass consumers of pornography. And if any of you guys listening out there, like, honestly, like, delete your porn if you've got it. Just fucking delete all of it. And don't go to Pornhub. These places are fucking Jewish-owned.
Yeah, dude, fuck no. Like, you have no... I've literally seen decent, well-functioning fucking men being destroyed by, like, literally becoming porn-brained.
Yeah.
Go out. Hell, go to a fucking running club. Find yourself a fucking partner if your libido is so goddamn fucking high.
Get a Ukrainian bride. There's a lot of them going around now, Because of the war, a lot of dead Ukrainian men. Therefore, there's the greatest supply. So you don't have to settle for that, that Thai bride or that Filipino bride. You can get a Ukrainian one.
I got myself a Dutch nerd.
Well, that's good for you. I've got an Australian born and bred. I'm pretty happy with that.
Oh, she's a very nice lady.
She is. She's got a bit of Anglo in her, so
Oh, oh my god! You're a fucking traitor. A goddamn fucking Tarek. Oh, I'm disgusted. I could vomit right now.
Yeah, I'm into race mixing. Oh. Okay, so our final story. We're gonna talk about Kangaroo Island. So they are looking at banning cats entirely from the island.
Yes, good idea.
Banning any new cats. So eventually, you would end up with a completely cat-free Kangaroo Island.
I'm sorry, but the human race managed to domesticate a hyper predator.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like cats actually hunt a bird? And it's
the clicking and then the chirping and etc.
Yes,
they mimic. They literally sit and listen to the bird and then mimic it. It's literally the scene from the original Predator where you fucking like fucking records the voices of the people calling for help, and it's like, help me, and then fucking lures them into a trap.
Yeah, but also not just that. Like, you know, their agility, you know, and their ability to climb the tree and narrow in on them. I mean,
they have reflexes faster than a fucking snake. And you think an avian's going to stand a chance against them. You think a fucking small marsupial is going to stand a chance against them. No. And by the way, I don't know if you remember the story, Finian. There was a female ranger locally on Rottnest Island, right? And she thought it was a good idea to smuggle her pet cat onto the island because, you know, pets for rangers were explicitly banned. But she just had to have a pet cat. Guess what the percentage decrease in the local quokka population was for the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, look, I can understand why they don't want them on Kangaroo Island.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 to 15 fucking %, by the way, decrease. And they never found the cat. They found stool from the cat, but they never found the cat. They just assumed after 10 years it died, which would make sense.
Yeah. Look, feral cats in Australia kill millions of birds, many of them native, every year. So, no doubt we have a huge problem with feral cats.
And, we drop poison sausages from helicopters. I'm not joking. You can look this up.
Yeah, well, look, they have had several cat culls on Kangaroo Island. Unfortunately, that's just how they have to deal with them. But no, I mean, in terms of actually killing native wildlife there, also, like, apparently they kill a lot of penguins as well.
Well, again, because they're a cat. You know, big cats and small cats do the same thing. They literally just go for the back of the neck and they keep biting until it fucking severs.
Yeah.
They can take down things that you don't think they would be able to take down because they just go for the neck and they break it. They internally decapitate the creature, and that's it.
Yeah, and they don't always eat it either. Sometimes they're just doing it for fun.
That's why I don't like cats. That's why I call yours Satan.
Well, look, she hasn't killed anything in a long time. She did. I don't know if I told you the story, but she did actually like massacre a small magpie once. It was quite amazing to see. I think it was like an adolescent magpie because it wasn't that big. But she tore it to pieces. Like all of the feathers and that were just sprawled over the backyard.
Yeah.
And there was all this fucking blood coming from the body of the thing. And she was just lying there looking up at me like meowing all cute. And I was like, holy shit, you are a killing machine.
I still remember, she never liked me. I still remember back in the days when I used to come down to, you know, like your private studio to record this show. And I always used to look over my shoulder if she was in the room because there was like a handful of occasions in the early shows where she'll just like crawl up the back of the fucking couch that I was sitting on with the mic and just swat me in the fucking head. And she's big enough that I actually felt like I actually like fucking like physically recoiled from that shit.
You see, that's one of her spots on the top of that couch, and I guess you were invading her space.
Oh my god! Again, for the audience, that's why I call her Satan, because she is a fucking menace. She has to be part Maine Coon. I swear to God, he's too big.
Oh no, I think she is. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure she is. Okay, alrighty. Well, guys. Thank you for that. We've actually given you one of our longer. I thought today was going to be a bit of a shorter one, actually, but yeah, there you go. Plenty of content. I think we'll be back to recording on Monday, so we might have a bit of a shorter show for you then. But yeah, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.